comments going through. So let's take a quick look at those. But welcome back to another evening with Eskel, everybody. We got Amanda here with us. I'm so excited. Thanks for joining us, Amanda. This is gonna be
Hi, I
fun.
see a lot of people from my live. Hi, Crystal. Are we live? Is it working? Oh,
Yeah, on my end, it says we've been live for 25 seconds. So we're going. This is great.
nice. Hi, Crystal. Hi, SM. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Todd. Woo! Hi, Gina. Hi, Mandy. Wow.
Yeah. Sweet. Well,
Hey.
awesome. Welcome, everybody. We're going to have a little bit of a discussion about, I don't want to quite call it like near-death experiences, but things that happen throughout your lives that you can basically never forget. And there's lots of things that everyone can kind of relate to and stuff. I've just been thinking a lot about why there's certain things I'll never forget that happened, like, freaking 10 years ago, but sometimes I can't remember stuff from yesterday. Do you ever experience that, Amanda?
Because of trauma. The trauma gets scarred in your brain.
But it's not always trauma though, because like some roller coaster rides I remember and they were amazing. Good things, not trauma, right?
Yeah, but don't you feel like the memories that pop up the most are usually traumatic?
Well, those ones, yeah, they definitely take a place high up in your memory for sure. They're very hard to forget, those ones. But it's
It's
funny
weird
too.
though.
Yeah, I think it's
Because some
very
trauma
strange.
gets forgettable, right? Some trauma, your brain is like, we can't handle this, so we're gonna pretend that we never happened, and then when they're healed enough, then I'm gonna surprise them with it.
Yeah.
But
Yep. It's
I
so
think,
weird how the mind works, man. It's crazy.
yeah. Are you
But
gonna talk about your
besides that,
experience, where your near-death experience?
yeah, so
I
I
actually
want to
have
talk
some
about,
questions about it.
yeah, for sure. Let's go over it because I was kind of creating a list because I was talking with someone that I was trying to decide what was the craziest moment in my entire life. I'm 25 years old, so I've lived 25 years in this world, having all these different life experiences. But I can't quite define which one's like the biggest one. What's been the craziest thing that I've ever been through. So I have a list of the top 3 so far, and this one is on it. This is when I was 11 years old, 11 or 12, and I got into my very first ever like major big car crash. And I do want to hear what your side was on it, Amanda, when you first heard about it. But for me, I'll never forget laying in the back of a pickup truck after like working on the farm out in Ibapaw, and literally waking up, my face in the dirt. And when I stood up, I looked behind me and I could see my body trail, the trail that my body had made like the skid marks in the dirt. And I of course had like scrapes and dirt all over me. And it was just so crazy. And I'd never, of course, experienced this. So I didn't know what to do. But I heard people screaming and yelling, and it was like a crazy moment. So I ran over to the truck, and I was so out of it that I knew something was wrong with the truck, and other people would come to the truck, but I didn't know what to do. So I started kicking the truck. And in my head, I thought that was going to help somehow. But really, it was one of the kids was stuck underneath the truck, like trapped underneath it. And everyone else was getting it lifted up just enough for them to crawl out from under it. But it was
Yeah.
crazy. Like, I got life flighted to the hospital. There was someone else there that got life flighted as well. And he had it way worse than I did. Like, I got pretty beat up, but he like had his skull get cracked and everything, was bleeding out the side of his head. Like, crazy
I
stuff to go
remember
through at 12 years
hearing
old.
I remember hearing one of our half brothers, because so the truck accident happened in Ibapaw, right? So Ibapaw is this place
Mm-hmm.
that is a big piece of property that the order owns, and there's this one lake called Blue Lakes that they were driving to,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a dirt road. And the guy that was driving really fast, and he was one of the kids that lived in Ibapaw, and he was driving too fast, and they turned too fast on the dirt road, and then it caused the car to flip. So they had this kid in there, his brother, who was about my age, was in there, and then they had this little boy that he got the worst of it. He was what, 8?
He was, yeah, the youngest one there was the one that got trapped underneath the truck. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really scary
And
for him.
Eskel is in the bed of the truck with a toolbox, right, with the other siblings, or well,
Hmm.
two half
Yeah.
siblings and Eskel was
After
there.
it was on the news, we realized that the truck had catapulted, like completely went forward and tipped over. So it was like a catapult with all the people laying in the back of the truck just got flung out of the truck as it tipped over. So
Oh
that's
my
why
god.
my body skid so far because we had like flown
Yeah.
out of it
I
and then hit the
remember
ground.
talking to one of our half so the two half brothers that were in the bed of the truck with you, one was the one that was born the year as me, so same age as me, just a few months older, and then the other one was
Hmm.
like a year older. I was hearing from his perspective that he was running around and he saw you face down in the ditch and he thought you were dead. He was so scared. But
It
you were like
definitely
one of
looked that
the
way.
least ish ones hurt because you didn't have to no
Well,
broken.
so actually, the crazy thing about it, the driver was untouched. Like he didn't have any
Wow.
blood on him. Like basically nothing happened to the driver. It
And
was
he was the
crazy.
oldest one too. I wonder
Yeah.
if he felt
Hmm.
bad for that. I would feel so bad. I mean,
Well, it was
he would
definitely
probably feel
crazy.
worse if, yeah, if
Well, you know what I found
luckily
out
everyone
later is
survived.
that, oh man, it was crazy. I guess I don't want to get him in trouble, but yeah, it was pretty wild for sure. One thing though that blows my mind is I got like scraped and stuff, but for some reason they chose me to fly in a helicopter to get life flighted. They only chose two people to get life flighted, and then everyone else rode the ambulance, right?
What
And for
about the
some
little boy?
reason, yeah, the little boy took an ambulance for some reason. Yeah, he went to the hospital in an ambulance because he had a broken leg. So he was of course hurt, but nothing to do with his head. For some reason, they took me in the helicopter, and then our half sibling that had the skull crack. He got in the helicopter as well as me. That was my first time ever flying in a helicopter as well. So crazy experience. But I remember being strapped down to the board because they have to strap you down so that you don't get hurt or something. But I wanted to look out the window so bad that I kept trying to like move the board I was on to look out the window. And then one of like the nurse people tilted the board slightly so I could barely see out the window and got to see the city lights and stuff. So it was kind of crazy. But I still to this day don't know why they chose me though to fly in a helicopter. I totally understand why our half brother, because he had, the skull fracture. But
You didn't
I
have
don't know
any
why they
bruises
chose
on your
me.
head or anything like that?
Well, I do remember the whole side of my face, because I was face down, so the whole side of my face, like that got slid, was scraped. But I don't know. I guess maybe that was a pretty big concern or something. But
Wait,
what are these people saying? So many
yeah, okay, let's
comments.
look at the comments.
Uh,
Um, yeah, Denise was saying brain trauma. Esco, we did an upper level live, and someone was talking about motorcycle accidents and
mhm.
how scary they are. And basically, I was like, Esco's that person that would just get in an accident and go do it again. You probably went into a bed of a truck again after that, huh?
I've been in the back of a truck for sure, yeah, but never with
That
the
didn't
same
traumatize
driver
you
though.
enough?
But the thing is, though, that's why maybe the fact that I passed out or something, it's not as traumatizing because to me, that was just like some crazy wild thing that happened. I don't associate it with pain though. I don't feel like I was hurt very badly or something because looking back on it,
Must
like it
have
was
been a lot of
crazy and
adrenaline.
chaotic, but it wasn't like super painful, I guess, for some reason. I don't associate it with pain or something I would never want to go through again. Of course,
Yeah.
it's scary only when I saw it on the news. I was actually more scared watching the news post about it than I was actually going through it because the news they talked about how it was very likely that many of us could have died. I saw the truck completely smashed and just looked like it was destroyed, and just the way they described it, it scared me even more so. But
Okay, didn't
I
the
don't know.
police officer say that you guys had to have been made of nails or something like that? There was like a
Yeah,
quote.
that it was just shocking that nobody died from it, which that's why it seemed so scary. Because to me, going through something crazy like that doesn't seem that scary because in my head, I was like, oh, none of us died. We're okay. Like it wasn't a near death experience until I saw it on the news and realized that, yeah, we could have easily died from that. That's when I
Yeah.
think reality set in and when it was actually really scary for sure.
Yeah.
But,
I guess that's true. I've been in well, we've all been in those four-wheeler accidents and we still jump right back on it. One of the most
mm,
traumatic ones actually, Oh, dang, maybe I should have brought this up in Cult a Cup of Coffee because it was with the Jenkins family back when we used to hang out with them.
Oh
And
yeah, I remember
yeah,
that.
one of the Jenkins girls was driving the four-wheeler, and then Cammy was behind her, and then me and Rachel were in the back, and I remember we were
So wait,
eating
wait, you guys had 4 people on one little
four.
thing?
Yeah.
Oh my
So they
gosh.
were two together, but there was like seats in the back where me and Rachel were on the seats, like on the caboose, like, and we were eating animal crackers, but they were like orange, so they were frosting over it.
Oh, oh
And I just remember
yeah.
eating it. And then all of a sudden, the Jenkins girl, it felt like she purposefully turned, but you know how sometimes you just hit something and it turns the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it
Oh,
turns, and we start heading towards a barbed wire fence. And I remember like eating my, it's like slow motion, and she jumps ship. And then Cammy's like looks and sees that she jumps and we're still heading for the barbed wire fence. And
oh
so
man.
pulls the emergency brake. I'm just back there eating useless. She pulls the emergency brake and it flips. And then
See, it
all I
probably didn't
remember,
seem real in the moment. You see it all happening, and you're
it
still
just
just
happened so
thinking of
fast.
that next cracker you're gonna eat.
Yeah. Well, I just didn't. I literally was like, why did she jump? Where are we going? What's happening? And then
Did you
I
hit the
don't
barbed wire or no?
no, we crashed before the barbed wire. I think I had a concussion or I passed out because I just remember waking up. Same thing, no pain. I just woke up and I was super weak. I didn't know how long we had been there for. And Rachel was under the four-wheeler, but she was under where the seat was. The seat, so she wasn't being squished. She was like
Oh,
just
okay.
trapped underneath it, but she was freaking out. She was like, "Get me out, get me out." And I remember trying really hard to lift, and then because of like the I don't know, the motion, I like I threw up my orange animal crackers.
Aw.
That's why I remember they were orange.
Ew.
Like I'm never eating these again. And I like turn over and the Jenkins girl's like holding her. She got the worst of it. She broke her
Cause
arm.
she jumped right off, huh?
She jumped, yeah, and
Ooh.
she's like, "I'm sorry, you guys. I'm so sorry." I'm like, "What were you gonna do?
Aw.
You're gonna have us run into the barbed wire fence?" And then
Dang.
Cammy just wakes up and she sees that Rachel's underneath the four-wheeler and she just lifts it up and gets her out of there. And then she starts
Whoa.
walking the opposite way of home. And I was like, Cammy, where are you going? And she's like, I'm going home. And I'm like, yeah, that's what, are you okay? And I was like, home is this way. She's like,
Oh
nah, home is
man.
this way. And I was like, oh, you need to
Ooh.
go to the doctors.
And she's the oldest, so it's really hard to tell her that she's wrong, huh?
Yeah, I had to convince her. I had to get multiple people to tell her no, it's this way. She had no memory of the past like 3 days.
What?
Yeah,
Wait, multiple days? She's
she
forgotten
she
about?
didn't remember that we were on the trip. She didn't know where we were. Yeah,
Whoa, so she probably hit her head too, huh?
yep. I at least had memory.
Dang.
I just
Oh
didn't
my
have
goodness.
memory of how the crash went. I just woke up.
Oh yeah. Dang, that's so
Do you have
crazy.
a guest in the
Oh my
background?
goodness. Yeah.
Would they like to share a traumatic experience?
I'm just outside, so there might be people passing by, but I got a great view for today. I was walking around for quite a while trying to decide what's a good spot to do the live. So I chose this one. I hope you guys like it. The skies are really beautiful today, though. It's been awesome. But, dang.
Yeah, that's for
But
sure.
that's so
I like.
wild. I think it's fascinating thinking back on like crazy traumatic experiences like that because I like how you mentioned the whole slow motion thing because I've had some really scary close calls like almost crashing my car where it does feel like it slows down in that
Slow
moment or
motion, yeah.
something. It's
It
so
feels like everything is going by so like I don't know. Even
And
like
don't you feel like having those experiences make you really like rethink some of your life decisions and it's not quite like your life flashes before your eyes, but it's like it makes you think like, wow, I could be dead right now. That I got to make the time I have left count. Like this is serious
yeah.
stuff. It's so
I
crazy.
definitely have those thoughts of like it could all be over now. Are you satisfied with everything that you've done in your life? Why are there those things that you want to do? Why haven't you done them yet?
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I have
Exactly.
mixed feelings though. There's been times where every single time I get on a plane, there's at least like 5 seconds where I 100% believe we are gonna go down. Like every
Why though?
single
Why do you put that through your head? Why do you keep thinking about that?
I'm a I have a really big fear of heights. And so if there
Hmm.
is any turbulence, which every single flight has turbulence, right?
A
So,
little
and then
bit,
I
yeah.
sometimes feel like there's times where I feel fine, but then once I'm up in the sky, then I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, we need to land right now. Or like
You
I'll
don't feel like
stare,
you get more used to it after
no, I'll
go
stare at the
flying so
wing
many
and be like,
times?
why is that moving so much? I think that something's broken.
Oh
I'll
no.
freak myself out. So I literally have to like play Tetris, especially when we're landing. I have to play Tetris and pretend that because I have to tell my brain like even if we're crashing, you can't do anything about it, so you might as well just enjoy the ride.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I'll
Yeah.
have
To
those
me, that's how
moments
I
of
feel.
like it we're gonna die. And it's weird. Sometimes I'm like, I'm okay with dying right now. And then other times I'm like, I wanna live. It's weird. It depends on my frame of mind at the time, which makes me
Yeah.
wonder when I actually die, what is my frame of mind gonna be? Like at peace, or am
Yeah.
I gonna be like fighting to the end?
Yeah, that'll be interesting, huh? That's something to think about. What sense of feeling you might have in the next life, huh? That would be crazy. I would imagine a lot of stress would probably leave because in this life there's constant stress about social anxiety, about finances, saving your money, or like just survival in general. But if you no longer need to survive, that seems pretty easy.
Because you're
that
dead.
takes that takes away
You don't have
so
to pay
much
no more
stress.
bills.
Yeah,
I wonder if,
dang.
because I don't know what I believe happens when we die, but well, let's say we turn into souls, right? So we turn into these
Hmm.
souls where we're not human anymore. What if we have PTSD though from our human experience, so we still like have it, social anxiety, even though it doesn't make sense to have it in the afterlife, or we have what we think is hunger, but we can't eat because we're
Yeah,
souls. What if that's
yeah,
a thing?
that would be so interesting.
Kinda
I
like when
like
you get
having
on a,
conversations.
yeah, a cruise ship, you know how the cruise goes like this, and then when you get on land, you still feel it even though it's not happening?
Hmm.
Maybe
Yep.
there's something like that.
So
Maybe
then,
it's
though, wouldn't that mean though? Then, once you're a spirit long enough, then those strange feelings or human things eventually go away, though. Then, and you kind of adapt to your new soul or spirit or whatever, right?
yeah,
To some
it's
degree,
strange.
maybe that would be interesting. Okay, but I want to
That's
ask
what
you a question though. Sorry, go ahead. You can finish yours first.
I forgot. You ruined
Okay.
it.
Sorry, my bad. I'm so bad about talking over people. I need to get better at that. I'll be more careful. Um, but a lot of the times when I am thinking back on those like really traumatic experiences, it makes me wonder like what are some of the biggest moments in my life, or even like what are some of the most important things in my life. And I also think of kind of the opposite, I guess. Be like, what are some of the hardest things I've gone through in my life, or what are some of the things I like the least about life? And so I want to ask you to see if your answer would be somewhat similar or relate in some way. If you had to choose one thing that you hate the most about your life experience, and then one thing that you like the very most, like the best thing about life's experience that you've
So
ever
if I had to
experienced.
rate my experience on Earth, and how many stars would I give it?
Wait, no, no,
0?
kinda, not like that though. I'm talking about
I
what basically what's
What
the
was the
greatest
best
thing
and what was
about
the worst?
life and what's the worst thing about life, basically.
Um I feel like we could all enjoy this experience of life a lot more if people weren't so focused on race, sexuality. I feel like we as humans we ruin the earthly experience sometimes by
Hmm.
putting silly things like race and sexuality and religion and
Yeah.
purposefully dividing each other. And
Hmm.
so it makes life a lot harder. And then
It's
status, right?
Well, it's almost like we're creating our own problem that's not
Yep.
really there, but we
Mhm.
create it. Isn't that so
And
dumb?
we
Ah.
think that it helps us by making us feel like superior, but it actually makes our life worse.
Hmm.
And it makes us have a worse relationship with ourselves. So there's that. There's that we become our own issues, and it causes even rifts between our own families where we if we could have just had harmony, we would have been great. But then opposite of that, the best parts of life are the really genuine connections that you make, the things that you get to learn from having those connections. You know, it's the opposite. I feel like everyone that's on their deathbed, they probably will reflect, at least for me, reflect on the people that I got to meet, the people that got to be in my life the longest, being grateful that I got to have you guys as my siblings. And then I don't think that money really is on the person's mind when they're dying. But the money is on our mind all the time when we're living.
Because
Are
it's a
we living good?
survival. It's a part of survival for
Yeah,
sure.
and that is part of the bad experience too of life is like we live to make money. We make money to live, and then we spend so much time on that that we forget to really actually live for other reasons other than making money.
Nice. I love your answer to that. I'm so glad you answered that because that goes along with what I was going to say. The whole thing that inspired this conversation and really sparked interest in my head is I saw a post online where they said the best, the greatest things in all of life and in the whole world, and the worst, most annoying things about life is people. It's essentially
Yeah,
people. They're both
yeah,
the worst parts of life and the greatest experiences of life. And it's like
yeah.
I started thinking about it. I was like, wow, there's a lot of truth to that. Isn't that so
Which is
funny
like
that the
part of
greatest
me.
things are also the worst?
Yeah. No, that
Man.
makes sense though, because it's also like sometimes I believe in reincarnation. So like 90% of the time I don't believe in reincarnation, but then there's that 10% where I'm like, I think reincarnation actually makes sense that all these people that are like really bad people and they just don't know how to be good people, I think it would make sense that we are all reincarnated, and let's say you and I were worse people in the life before, and then even worse the life before, and you just learned how to be better and better and better, and then you're born with this will to not want to be around that toxic stuff, and maybe that's how. This is just all hypothetical. Maybe that's how we sought out to leave the cult because we didn't thrive in the toxic environment anymore. Whereas our past self probably would have stayed because, you know what I mean? Does that make
Hmm.
sense?
No, yeah, I think that makes complete sense. That's so
I
wild how it all plays out, though.
But yeah, it is true though. The worst parts are people, and then the best parts are people too. But it's all
Hmm.
a frame of I don't know. I think that it takes. There's a few things that I really like in people, and that's the same thing like self awareness, um,
Hmm.
having accountability. But the opposite is what I hate in people: people who lack accountability, people who are not aware of how they're treating others and how their existence is affecting others. So
Yeah, to me, I actually was saying one of the hardest things I have with people is trust. Being able to know if like you can be vulnerable with them and if they're going to use that against you, or just being able to trust
yeah,
them in general. And then I was like, that's one of the things I have the hardest with people, but that's also something that I really value in a person. So I think it goes
yeah,
hand in hand, and it made me think of we've heard countless times of love stories, right? It's like when you get so close to someone, you fall in love with someone, you really like that person, you give them that ability to hurt you almost, and
yep,
it's like that's so scary. I can't
it is
believe that
scary.
that's always going to be attached to a meaningful, deep relationship. It always will, and that just blows my mind. It makes it so hard to trust people.
Yeah, I have this because I had people give advice on that, like don't be too vulnerable, don't give too much information until you really trust them. And I feel like I for a long time I did feel that way, like, oh, don't tell them too much, you don't want them to judge you, da da da. But I kind of feel like I don't want to live like that anymore. I want to bear it all and tell all the parts of me, and if someone doesn't like it, then I'm not going to be hurt by that because that person, I didn't have that connection with them anyways because it was in the very beginning.
Exactly.
Uh,
Yep.
and
That's
still, it
so
is hard,
true.
like you get so vulnerable with someone and then they use that against you. But also, if you have a really good sense of self and who you are, I don't think anyone really can hurt you in those ways because you know who you are, and what they do is not going to affect or waver that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I like that. I think that's why I think understanding yourself is has to be step one to a relationship.
Yep.
I think that's so true. Hey, we got John Robinson commenting, Magic Life John. He says, Eskel, that's an awesome view. Wow, I love these lives. Heck yeah, everyone hit that like button. Oh, yeah,
Aw,
everyone listen to John. That's awesome. Nice.
I know him as Joe. Did you call him John in the order? I always knew him as
Yeah,
Joe.
he goes by Joe because of his dad's name and stuff, but I think now he's going by John a lot more, if I understand correctly. But yeah, he responds to both, so I'm sure either one works.
Can we
But
ask him about his restaurant? How is that doing? I want to
oh
go to
yeah,
the.
if anyone lives near Salt Lake City in Utah, go check out his sushi restaurant. It's so cool. He's got some good sushi rolls. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Um,
Is
you
there a
know what
family
else?
discount?
What?
I'm kidding. I was like, is there a family discount? I'm not gonna be that
Well,
person.
when I went, well, I
I'm
shouldn't say this
no,
online, but he
don't say
gave
it, because
he
what if it was just for you?
yeah
And
he he
I'm a
definitely was
firm
nice to me.
believer. I'm retracting that joke because I'm a firm believer in if you go to your family's business, your friend's business, you should
You
want to
should want
support
to
them
support
more.
them. Yes, I
Yeah.
love that viewpoint
So
for
don't
sure.
give me the family upcharge.
Yeah, there you go. I'll come and get extra food just to support your business. I like that. That mindset's so smart because then you're there to help lift each other up, not looking for a free handout. I think that's so cool. That was awesome. Um, One thing else that I want to say though is along the lines of just like how important relationships are and just certain moments of life. I also heard this saying that was so cool to me because there's been countless times where I'll have a conversation with somebody and it just gets on your nerve and it bothered me so much. But in the saying, it was talking about how if you have $1,000 and somebody stole like $1 from you, for instance, then would you rather spend that the rest of that money trying to get after that person, try and get your dollar back, or would you just move on with your life? And then they compared it to how you only have, I don't remember the exact number, but like 40,000 seconds in a day. And so if someone takes away 10 minutes of that or is annoying or ruins 10 minutes of your day, don't waste the rest of your day dwelling on that and hating it,
Yeah.
just move on and enjoy the rest of what you have, because life's too short to stress about all the little things or get annoyed
Mhm.
at people, because in the world we live in, free agency, I'm a true believer that free agency comes with the ability to offend people. You have to be able
Mhm.
to take being offended, and sometimes you're going to offend people, and if everyone just completely hated you and cut you off if you ever offended them, then life would never work, relationships would not be able to build. But you have to be able to be okay with being offended and still work together and understand that there's a bigger picture than just one conversation that you're having. You're living life that's so much longer, so much more meaningful than just the individual moment. So
Yeah.
I love that.
And
I think it's so important.
obviously it's different for like, okay, if someone stole $50, you don't want to have that person in your life to steal more. But also
Mhm.
I've spent a lot of time like having people live rent free in my brain, like really, really getting upset over something that I can't change the past.
Mhm.
They did this to
Yep.
me. All I can do is change the future. And if I have to decide, okay, I don't like that those traits that that person did, and those are very negative towards me, and I want to have a positive life, so I'm gonna have to distance myself from that person. And then you're
Mhm.
not constantly thinking about them too, and like having them live rent free in your brain. Uh,
Exactly.
Priscilla actually told me this very. I'm missing her a lot. I've been thinking about her a lot today, but she told me this very early on after she left the order, and I wonder if she learned it from Lifeline because she had therapists in Lifeline, and she said, hating someone is letting them live rent free in your brain. Also, loving someone, they're taking up space in your brain. So it's the best because I was having a hard time with dad. That's what it was. I was like I couldn't get
Mhm.
over how dad was treating me and how he could act like I'm like the worst scum of the earth. So I was constantly talking about it, and so she was basically giving me advice like hating someone like your dad is giving him the same energy as loving him. So you need to just not care.
You got
Because
to let
they'll
it go.
have
There's so
yeah,
much more great relationships you're going to find throughout your life that it's not worth holding on to the past ones that aren't doing you any good.
yeah.
So I like that. That's so true.
I
Yeah.
literally still think about so now that you said like, oh, what are these memories that you remember, the trauma, blah blah blah. I
Mhm.
have a lot of things that people have told me in my lifetime that I still bring up. Like that thing Priscilla told me that when she was like 18. And I remember thinking, wow, that's really good advice. And even Gerald, when he was giving me advice on my after my divorce, me taking accountability, like, oh, I did choose to stay for that long, and I changed it because I wanted to change it. Taking the accountability and the responsibility for your life choices helps you to have more control in your future. So
Oh
I guess
yeah.
that goes hand in hand with the best parts of life, right? You get to take the pieces that people give you and use those in your future and in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Joe
Yeah.
says, absolutely, you get a discount. I'm gonna remember you said that. Just kidding.
Nice.
He
That's
hikes
awesome.
up all the prices on the menu right before I get there.
Nice.
I'm giving you
Uh,
full permission to do that.
Heck yeah. No, I think
Wait, did
just
we tell the name
if
of
we
his
get,
restaurant? Did we
yeah,
tell the
it's
name of his restaurant?
sumo sushi. Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Anyone wants to go support?
it's right
Does
next to
everyone know
Salt
that
Lake
Joe?
City.
Yeah, Joe is our cousin. His dad is Daniel. So Daniel's our dad's half brother. So that's how we're related to Joe. One of
Mhm.
the many cousins. We like Joe. He did an interview on my channel and your channel too, huh?
Yeah, yeah. And just my live, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks ago. He was on my live. It was cool.
Nice.
He was
I can.
wearing his sumo shirt too, the sumo sushi shirt to his restaurant.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Nice. I need to go try some. I love sushi.
Hey, what
I
did
can.
you cook with
Aquanta?
I know her name. Aquanta, yeah.
We looked through her FLDS handbook because they not handbook cookbook. They had an
All the
FLDS
things
cookbook,
that
kind
they
of like
cook
how
there.
yeah how the order has
Oh, that's
their
cool.
order cookbook.
Mm-hmm.
She taught me how to make bread. I have never. We
Ooh.
made bread bowls. It was mostly just her making the bread bowls actually. So, but then we did
Yeah.
a cook off of. We were gonna do clam chowder, but then we were like, let's just do a soup, and we can decide whatever soup we want to do. And literally, as I was cooking, I was watching how she was cooking, and I was like, oh no, oh no. But yeah,
Oh,
Kathy was the judge, so that
oh,
should be coming.
Kenny.
I'm still trying to decide when that one's coming out, but
Nice.
because I want to do part two on the Shiny Happy People series. Did you watch that yet?
No, no, I just watched your Cults to Consciousness interview. That one was awesome. You did really good. I really
Thank
liked that
you.
one.
I actually really like her, and literally the whole time I was talking with her, I was like, I want to be her friend. And I know that
Uh-huh.
she's like does this for work because I do my stuff for work, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I was like, do you think she likes me? Like, I would really be her friend in
What
real
do you
life.
know? Like roughly her location. Like, could we ever go
Yeah,
visit her? Or try to
I
meet up?
literally did tell her I was like, when I'm in California, then
She's
let's
from
do.
California.
Yeah, well,
What?
I
Oh
think
yeah, we
she's
love
from
going to
Utah
California.
because she was Mormon and from Utah, and then
Mm-hmm.
she moved to LA with the guy that she ended up marrying, and he like helps her. They're like a power couple, man.
Heck
You've
yeah.
seen how fast their channel has grown, right?
Yeah, they have some videos that have so many views.
And
It's
they haven't even been on YouTube as long as us, so it makes me be
yeah.
like, ah, ah, ah.
Nice, but hey, we're still doing great. I love it. I know
And
it's like we've been going all over the place though. We've been trying to do so much that it has been making our YouTube a little bit slower, but still, like at least we're getting things done. I think that's great. So,
yeah, and they did say like if you ever have questions about like clickbait or like the because they were giving me really good advice on things that I didn't even know about. Like
really.
he was saying like did you there was a certain section in the YouTube studio that I have never even heard of. I have to the click rate. I think that's what it's called. Sorry, this is gonna get boring for people
Hey,
who don't.
I'll call you after the live though, because I want to hear all this for sure. I think this is good
Yeah,
information.
it's good advice, and that's why I'm like I'm also glad that I met them because I can also kind of have mentors now a little bit.
Oh, did you see Flickerface comment? She's picked up 4,000 subscribers since your interview, which is like 10% of her subs. Whoa, that's cool. Dang.
Wow. She did say she's like, we gotta do more of these.
Yeah,
She's
you
like, let
might as well
more
collab
out.
with her more. It's gonna help both of your channels to grow, so that'll be
Yeah.
awesome.
I'm literally thinking of just making a trip to California because I want to take notes too on how they do what, like their whole everything. Because I want to really amp up my gear. That's why I got a microphone.
Nice. Heck yeah. That's cool. Dang. That's so
You like having
exciting.
your second channel?
Yeah, just because I know I haven't posted a lot on it, but it gives me the excuse to just post anything. Because there's been countless times in the past I'll make a video that's just really goofy and funny, and I'll have just posted a very like intense, serious reaction to an escaping polygamy episode, you know, and I just won't post the funny one or the fun video I made because I'm like, I just posted this really serious one, and I feel a little bit weird posting a funny, goofy one on my same channel as my very serious videos, you know. So I'm like, I've just been having a hard time with that. So now I have two, and on my personal channel, I just post anything I want. It can be silly, it can be funny, it can still be serious, it can be travel, whatever. But then my cult experience one, these ones are all going to be a little bit more on the serious side, things that like I feel like really need to bring attention to, and just things like that, you know. So
Mhm.
I think it's important.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
that's what if I do a second channel, I'm gonna start doing the drunk cook-offs on there and more of like just
Yeah,
chill
I
videos.
just posted my video with Val about us eating all those crazy foods. I did that
You did?
on my personal channel. Yeah, so
Oh, I
that
wanna
one's
see
on there.
that.
So now I have two. I have the one with Harper, eating all the candy and getting a sugar rush, and then now I have the one with Val as well, doing eating just the craziest foods. It was so nasty, but
I
it was a
well,
lot of fun though.
I just gonna bookmark it so I can watch it afterwards. Because I was there. I'm excited to see how you edited
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I liked it. I might have gone a little too crazy with the zoom ins because it was just so weird to see like biting straight into a raw potato. You know, I was like, whoa, that's weird. So I zoomed in a lot in this one. But,
Wow. Oh, this looks insane. I'm like watching the intro. Oh, there's me with my dark hair.
mhm.
Sometimes I miss my dark hair.
Yeah.
Miss
Do
never
you
having.
like? Isn't it fun just having variety? I feel like it's fun just trying one thing one day and another thing the next month or whatever. I
That's
think that's
why I feel like I just want to shave my head and get a bunch of wigs.
Oh, that then you could literally be different every single day, huh?
Yeah.
That would be wild. Huh.
And sometimes I feel like, oh, this outfit was cuter with that hair. It literally like your hair
So your
complements.
hair would be in like an outfit.
Yeah.
That'd be
I
interesting.
don't
I think
know.
it'd be fun.
I'm gonna go watch after this. Yes, Angels Among Us. You gotta go watch it.
Oh yeah, go check it out. It's a lot of fun.
I commented I could watch 10 hours of you two cults to consciousness together. Really? So, and a lot of people were saying our chemistry is pretty well. We seem to, which I don't know how her chemistry is with other people, other than I watched her and Calvin, and I think Calvin's pretty good at like talking to anyone.
hmm
So I should watch her other ones.
Hey, how did she? How did the video actually take place? Did you guys do it over Zoom or what did you guys use?
This there's this app that literally she just sent me the link and I clicked it and we were able to
Hmm,
record. And
okay.
she had me have a earpiece in so that she couldn't hear the echo, so we both had earpieces in so we could hear each other in
Nice.
our ears.
Oh, that's
Um,
smart.
but see, that's
Yeah.
something that if you want to come with me when I go to California, you can learn things like that, like those little things that you never would think about because you haven't
Cool.
experienced it. But that's a
Yeah.
good option for interviews because I'm the type that I really like to interview in person because I really also like I like the personableness of it. I like actually meeting the person, but the way she did it, I feel like it was still pretty personable. And we
Nice.
had a phone call like the day before. We talked for like 30 minutes.
That helps so much. I think doing a phone call beforehand helps a lot. Because when I did my interview with Eric Mutzos, we didn't get to do a phone call ahead of time, and so we spent the first like 10 minutes just trying to like figure out like how the trade off was going to go, who's going to talk when, and like what topic points we wanted to get to, and all that. So it was very interesting. But yeah,
Oh
it can be
yeah.
tough doing
And
virtual interviews.
that one wasn't in person, right?
Nope, that one wasn't. It was all virtual. That one we did through Zoom, and I didn't like Zoom very much. Zoom was I don't feel like the quality came through very good, and it just like wasn't the best.
Hmm. Are you gonna put highlights in your hair, Eskel?
Well, what I want to do, Amanda, we should do some sort of video, maybe even just a cook off, and the loser has to dye their hair whatever color the people vote for online. I think that would be so fun. I'd be willing to do that.
What? But you're not gonna drink. You have to. What are we gonna do? Shots of energy drink?
Yeah, something. We'll figure out something. It would be cool.
I will for sure win because you
It
never
depends
cook.
on what the food is, but like if
Eskel,
we both have to cook my specialty food, then it would give you a hard time. But if we're just cooking
Eskel,
anything, you'll definitely win. But
everybody should know this. Eskel stores stuff in his oven. That's how often he uses it. He stores like cooking, not cooking. He stores sewing gear in his oven.
I've lived in my apartment for 2 years now, and I've never used the oven ever. So I use it as a storage instead. I just put stuff in it, keep it out of
But
the way.
stovetop.
Oh yeah, I use the top of it. Yeah, the stove top, but never the oven part.
I felt so like wow, I never cook. When Aquanta came to visit, every day she was baking something. She was like, "What should we make for dinner?"
Aw,
It was the most our kitchen had ever been used. She made homemade bread twice. She made
wow.
bread twice.
I bet you loved that, Amanda. Just having so much
Potato,
good
yep.
food to eat.
And she taught us how to make cream cheese. I'm like, how do you
What?
make cream cheese? But yeah, I
Interesting.
I'm so like that's one thing that the FLDS did right. Like those they all know how to home cook meals. Whereas us, I feel like we were all so busy taking care of the kids for our parents and then taking them to school and then we're also going to school and working full time. We don't have time to
Yeah, food
watch
was
bread
like an
twice.
afterthought, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
I mean, maybe some families in the order had good cooking. Did you know anyone that cooked a lot in the order?
Nope, not
Just
really.
Cheryl
I
and Val.
remember like I remember thinking our mom was one of the best. I remember going to other people's homes, having their food, and being like, I want to go home. Like this is gross. Like, do you remember ever eating at the first fry's house? I remember sometimes being like, this is not food, okay?
Yeah, I definitely feel like
But,
our mom cooked more than she did, but also she
oh
had
yeah.
15 kids, so she probably just was
hmm
like, "Go eat your oats."
Yep.
Like cooking for 15 kids, that's literally
Can
like
you
a full day
imagine?
counter.
That would be crazy. Yep.
Kind of want
It
to
got
ask Jerry.
so extreme. Do you remember them putting a lock on the refrigerator even? I remember being like, what? How are you gonna get like you gotta like growing up, stealing food was just a part of life. I think growing up in a family that big. And so I was like, how now if it's locked, you could like starve. What are you gonna do? You
No,
know?
they would have them eat oats out of the pantry and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, but how do you get the milk for it though? You gonna eat oats with water? Like
They
I
did
guess if
sometimes.
that's your only option,
Yeah.
like that's crazy. So
Yep, I
gross.
remember getting in trouble for stealing food, but then I would argue with mom. I'd be like, "Oh, wait, wait, wait. So the food stamps that you qualify for having me,
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Yep.
even eat those foods." Be like, "Shut up."
Yeah. It's
And then
so crazy.
I'm like, "Thank you. I will eat this brick of cheese now."
Oh my goodness, all the cheese sandwiches I've eaten growing up. Oh, I don't think I've ever told that story on here. I still remember to this day. This is one of those memories ingrained into my mind. Is when I made a cheese sandwich on a glass plate, probably the only glass plate we had left in our house because those never lasted. And I took it out of the microwave after I had melted the cheese, and it was hot, so I like dropped it, shattered all over the floor. Glass got all up into the cheese sandwich. So I take the cheese sandwich to the trash can and throw it away. And Dad is like, don't you throw that away. You can't waste food. And I was like, there's glass in the cheese sandwich, like all throughout it. And he's like, that's fine. You can still eat it. And I was like, no way. You try to eat it. And he took it. And I'll kid you not. He like tried to like brush it off a little bit, but he goes and he bites right into it and he started eating it. And I kid you not, I swear, I even heard a crunch while he was eating it. So he ate a cheese sandwich with glass things throughout it. Like, it was crazy. I
There's
don't
a
know
lot of people like
what
that in
he's going
order
through.
that grew up in the Great Depression, or like
hmm
dad's family really was super poor, and
Oh
so
yeah, we talk about dumpster diving, like to go get pizza and donuts. Sometimes they did it like almost religiously. Man, he tells so many stories about literally needing their food to come from dumpsters and stuff like that. Like, it's so crazy.
did dad finish the whole cheese sandwich? He's like,
Oh, I don't know. I should have stayed and paid attention, but he sure acted like he was going to. He made a very solid point that he needed to, but
Yeah,
I
to make
don't
an
actually
example.
remember watching him. I was just so
I think
shocked. I was like, ew. And I went and made a different one, another sandwich.
when's Father's Day? Are you gonna make a Father's Day video?
Ugh, I don't know.
I'm thinking of making a parody. Like, thanks, Dad, for teaching me that the only loyalty you have is towards the Raiders, even though they suck and they haven't been good for 10 years. I'm thinking of
Oh,
just making
man.
a little goof
Mm-hmm.
out of Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like that's one thing that I've thought about. Like how I hear even with regular families where they only have like 2 or 3 kids, and they'll complain that like the husband is really into sports and they don't spend enough time with their wife and their kids. It's like our dad had 32 kids, and it almost seems
Still
like
made
he
time. Still
dedicated
made
more
time.
time to the
Yeah.
sports. Yeah, it's so
Let me
true.
say that again. Our dad had over 30 kids, 3 wives, and he still had time to make fantasy football leagues with his bros.
Mm.
That's that. Wow. I'm gonna put that in my video. Who does fantasy football? Who has time for that? Our dad.
Yeah, it's crazy. So interesting. Just the priorities, people's priorities in their lives, man. It's interesting. But-
I know. I was literally talking to someone today, and they asked me. They're like, "Do you want to have kids?" It was a girl because she was like talking about how she wants to have kids, and she's like, "Do you want to have kids?" And I was like, I thought about it, and I was like, if I do, I am going to be in that kid's life. I mean, my life is going to be revolved around that kid. There's not going to be, I'm not going to be doing fantasy football. I'm not going to be doing, you know, I
Mhm.
just feel like I would prioritize the kids so much more than obviously you have to have your time as a parent to be able to live your life too and to fill your cup as well. But I just think of like of course these people thought they could have 15 kids and it would be super easy because they didn't plan on being in the kid's life.
Yeah. It's so sad. But I thought about this for a while, and I talk with Abigail a lot because Abigail has 2 kids, right? And she pointed out a really good point about how it doesn't even make sense to only have some sort of a spiritual requirement to have kids, and you know how in the order it's like you have kids that gives you points in heaven or something, like you're supposed to have kids, yada yada. But it's like really she was pointing out how kids are so fun to have, and they're like such a blessing, and it's one of the most amazing experiences you could ever have in this lifetime, that it's like why would you ruin that by just going out and just not caring about it? Having a bunch of kids before you're ready for them, before you can handle them, that it's like you're going to take the one of the greatest things about life to experience and be able to enjoy, and you're almost going to ruin it for yourself. You're not
Yeah,
only ruining it for that kid, but you're not going to enjoy it either.
yeah.
It's like,
Well, I
why would
think
you do
too.
that? That's so
I'm gonna
gets
add a
on my
piece to
nerve.
that because technically that's not the greatest experience for everyone, right?
Yeah, 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 you're right, you're right.
Because you think that dad really was raising me, was I the apple of his eye? No, it wasn't a good experience. So the only
Mm-hmm.
people that should be having kids are the ones that think that believe that this is the most amazing experience that I will ever experience in
Mm-hmm.
my life. Because those are the
Yeah.
ones that are actually going to cherish it, cherish the child, cherish the
Mm-hmm.
journey. The
And it would
ones
be
that
so
are like,
much better for both of them, the parent and the kid.
"Mhm."
That's so
Because it's
much
in the
more
eye of
worth
the
it.
beholder. Some people are
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh no, I'm pregnant. I don't want this," and
Mm-hmm.
that
Oh
there's
yeah.
the difference in parenting with that and someone who really really wants that. I mean, there are also people who didn't want it and then they end up being really good parents. So
Mm-hmm.
there's that like gray line too. But
Yeah. It
yeah,
just it has the potential of being something so great that to me it's like why ruin that, Why ingrain into all these people's minds that you have to have as many kids as possible as soon as possible before you could ever even appreciate it or enjoy it, that it's like to me that just seems like it ruins everything. But
it's true. Even like how the order structure is basically inevitable failure. Like you're
no,
gonna end
for
up.
real. The especially in your interview, I was like, oh my gosh, Amanda, that is gonna lead them to their own demise. because you were talking about incest and inbreeding, and then they can't even reproduce anymore. It's like,
Yep.
that's, oh my goodness, that
They're
makes
keeping it
so
a
much
secret.
sense.
They
Yeah.
don't want people to know that the men are infertile from inbreeding, because
Mm-hmm.
then the question is, wait a minute, God directed all these marriages, right? So why would God direct all these marriages and say, well, you guys need to have as many kids and replenish the earth, but then because we married so closely, now we're infertile? It was this God's
Mm-hmm.
plan all along? It'll cause a
Yep.
lot of questions, and then it will cause a lot of women to not want to marry these men because they want to have kids, right? So even if it is,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, Paul's son, women aren't going to want to marry them if they're going to be like, oh wait, you're infertile, well I need to have children, so how am I supposed to have children with you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
and I
the
could see
program is
like
going.
they could totally, I could see them using that almost as like an example, like instead of wanting to say they're infertile or things like that, they could use that as like shaming people and like, just use it in really harsh ways that I think is just going to be really sad. It's rough,
Yeah.
man. It's
Brooke
crazy.
said, sorry, I feel like we're not looking at the chat. But Brooke has a comment. I really wanted to adopt older children, but ended up too poor and disabled. That would be great. Literally, Brooke, I've thought so much. I want to adopt the older ones that don't get adopted. But there's so much that goes into adopting. And then, like, someone made a comment on my video actually that we need to make adopting easier, because what did they say? There was like 2 million people waiting to adopt. I don't know where they got that.
Really?
But
Wow.
it's like, if there's so many people that are wanting to adopt these kids and get them out of the foster homes and whatever, why does it seem like the issue? I don't know. Maybe I should do some more research before I talk on it. But I 100% was with you, Brooke. I wanted to adopt, and I still wouldn't be opposed to it once I'm in a place that could actually help. I like right now, if I adopted a kid, I'd be like, we're in this crap together now. But when I'm more stable, and actually have a healthy, happy home that I could give the kid. That's why I haven't adopted a pet yet either, because I'm like, I need to make sure that I can give more of myself and have the time to give to nurturing.
Hmm.
So what was that other comment I was just reading?
Yeah, so many great comments today. Thanks everyone for joining and being a part of the discussion. This is awesome.
I know, I'm sorry that we skipped over some of them. I'm trying to go up to see if we can find any questions. I
Mhm.
like this group. Oh, Emily's here. This group is like, I feel like I missed you guys, and then we all came back together. Diana's here too.
What's up,
Except,
everybody?
Diana, can we have a chat before I film my next video? Because you have so much good information. It's crazy how
Someone,
people know about the Duggars. I never wanted to watch the
yeah,
Duggars
that's
on
big.
TV because I felt like it was our life. Like, what was entertaining about that? I live this, and then I have to watch it on TV.
That's how I felt kind of watching Tom Green's documentary, man. It's so crazy.
Which one was that? The one where he was on the trailer park?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just watched it on
His
YouTube.
is like, I just hated hearing how the girls talk. Like, one of the young wives was like, "Oh, he's so great. Like, it would be selfish of me to keep him to myself. So I want to share him. That's how great he is." It's like,
hmm It's just
wow.
so sad to see all of the same manipulation that we've grown up with.
Yep. And like, you see right through it. And even like 19 Kids and Counting, I feel like I saw right through that. And Cody Brown. Cody
You
Brown, at some
know.
point, everybody liked it, right? But because we lived
hmm
it, I was just like, this is bull crap. Like, this is all fake.
Yeah. You know what
It's
that
a
did make
show.
me think of though? I wish so bad the order would be a little more open or have some sort of more like truthful websites or a documentary, because if they even heard themselves say some of the things that they say, they would realize how insane they are. It would just blow their minds. It's so absurd, some
Yeah.
of the things that they believe,
Kind of
just saying it out loud.
right.
Yeah.
With having a YouTube channel, it causes you have to see yourself how other people see you, and then you have to be like, do I actually
hmm
believe what I just said? I don't know if I resonate with that.
Yep.
You have to constantly be reevaluating yourself and your morals and your beliefs, because I don't like when people go out there and share their beliefs, and like, everyone should be doing this, but they're not doing it themselves, or they don't have a good reason for to do it. They're just doing it, you know?
Exactly. Yep.
So I
That's
don't
why I think the why is more important. Whatever you do, like
Mhm.
I love hearing what people do, but I'm always like, what's bigger and more important to me is why. Why do you live the
Yep,
way that you live, and why do you believe what you believe? You
yep,
know?
I agree with that. But then it also makes you have to practice what you preach, right? Like
Oh
live
yeah.
by what you're saying. I don't know why, and maybe it's because we came from the order and we were surrounded by so many hypocrites where they'd be like, "You gotta do this," and then they're going to do something behind closed doors, and
Mhm.
maybe that's part of the trigger. But one thing that is such a turnoff with me when I meet someone is when their actions are not in line with what their words are. It bothers me so
Mhm.
much, and some people say psychologists say that's a form of manipulation. But how? What if the person doesn't even know that they're doing it? You know?
Ooh, that's a good point. Dang.
'Cause I've done
Hmm.
it. I've definitely been someone who lives a life that's completely different than what I tell people to live their life.
Well, it's one
Manipulate
thing to
yourself.
be. It's one thing to be like, um, letting them know, like I haven't gotten to this level. Like I still do this, but I think it would be better not to. Versus saying like, oh, I don't live this way. Nobody should live that way, but then they really do. You know. I think it's
Mhm.
way worse when someone's lying about it, and to me, that's straight up manipulation. But it's another when someone's like, I struggle with this, and I think life would be better if I didn't or if I
Mhm.
did implement these things, but I'm not. But as long as you're clear and letting people understand where you are, that's what I think is so important. Just don't. Bottom line, just don't lie to people. That's all that it
Yeah.
is, man.
But if you're lying to yourself, then you don't see it. You don't see it. Like
That's
I
true.
lie to myself
Hmm.
all the time in the order, like, I'm so happy,
Yep, that's true. Oh man.
excited to live polygamy.
Yep,
Sometimes you
that's one
can.
thing.
Sometimes you can. Sometimes it
Mhm.
is okay actually when you think when because for me, I have an issue sometimes my inner voice talks really good to myself and sometimes my inner voice is mean to myself. So some days I have to look in the mirror and say, "You're great, you're pretty, you are a nice person, you are kind, you are look how far you've come." You have to tell yourself that
Yeah, but those
even
aren't
though
lies, though. Those are all
but
true.
but right,
So.
sometimes you feel like it is a lie, right? Because you're not busy with it. But that inner voice, though, you have to train it. You really do have to train it to be a good inner voice because that's what you're stuck with your whole life.
Yep, that's true.
I
You
feel
have to
like you
live
don't
with
have an issue
yourself
with that.
24/7. Well, I feel like I've done a little better at creating the habit of focusing on the positive, and negative things happen, obviously, but I try really hard to move past those as quickly as possible and get to something that I can look forward to or be excited about. That's something I've definitely worked on a lot throughout my life, and I'm proud of myself for being able to be a lot more of a positive person. And so I
Yeah,
try to keep that going for sure.
yeah, I
But
like
life's
that.
crazy. You never know what's going to
I
happen.
I want my positivity to be a lot more natural. It has been more natural the past couple years, but definitely it was a struggle to be positive in some of my life for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sarah says examining your life is hard but necessary. Oh yeah. And a lot of people
Mhm.
don't want to be uncomfortable and examine themselves and have to hold themselves accountable and so they don't do it because it's just too hard of a task. But in the long run it's so much better to do that and just to
Mhm.
even if it's just journaling about yourself and trying to understand one thing that I really just like what I was talking about in my life where I got triggered when someone was talking about God, I instead of getting triggered and upset at that person, turning it around, huh, that's a trigger for me. I and now this is an opportunity to learn more about myself and why I'm getting triggered and what I can do to help myself not get so affected by what some stranger is saying.
Mhm. Yep. That's true. And I think it just helps bring you to reality too. Because if you reflect on yourself and truly understand what decisions you make, what type of a person you are, I feel like it would make it a lot easier to accept other people as well. Because if you're constantly lying to yourself and saying, you're great, you're the best, you never make mistakes, it might be harder for you to forgive someone that makes a mistake, right? But if you're understanding and accept yourself as you are and realize you make mistakes too, that's a part of life, it would be much easier to accept someone else in their faults as well. And I feel like that's the truth of reality. That's a part of life. So,
Yeah, and then you become that person where we were just talking about how people are the worst and then also people are the best. I feel like
mhm.
the best people I've ever met are the people that are just very genuinely honest and upfront and They're not afraid of accountability and apologizing when they do something wrong, you know,
Yep.
and open to other people's frames of mind, basically.
Hmm.
Those are
And
like
just that, being apologetic. If you understand that you have faults and that's okay, it makes it much easier to admit you made a mistake and to
mhm.
apologize for it. But if you're like, in the order, I feel like they have this God mentality, like they can't do wrong. They have to, be the one above the person and be this example that it's like they almost can't admit to their faults. And that's going to be detrimental to them because then
Yep,
they'll never be able to fix even the little things that they might make. Everyone's going to make mistakes on, and if
yep.
they can't fix those, how are they going to build a healthy, honest relationship with
It's
people?
almost like they just dig a deeper hole and they're stuck
Mm-hmm.
in it.
Yep.
It's what narcissists do. Like this psychologist explained it so well. Narcissist frame of mind is very black and white. If I am not the best, I'm the worst. If I am not beautiful, I'm
Hmm.
ugly. So they constantly have to
Wow.
have their ego up here, which is also why a lot of the men, the second you knock their ego, then a lot of them are abusive or like they just cannot handle their ego being shaken.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas someone who's not a narcissist, if someone shakes their ego or whatever, they don't really have an ego to be shaken. They don't really,
Mm-hmm.
the outside people don't have an effect on their sense of self. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
the narcissist has to control everyone around them to feel like they are in control. And then
Mm-hmm.
they feel out of control if they don't, which is why there's so much control in the order.
Yep.
I
It's
also
crazy.
wonder
It's
though,
like a
did you
military
see it is. And don't get me started on the military. Just kidding.
camp.
But did you see someone said that we were talking about how there's not really a lot of female preachers or like heads of churches, and a lot of churches, women don't get to have the priesthood and all these things. Do you think that is stemmed from narcissism? Like, why do you think for a long time men don't have in history men don't allow women to like even not even religious in history women weren't even allowed to vote, right? We were
Mhm.
second class citizens. Is that the right word for it? Why do you think that that is? You being a man, which
Well, some people might get offended by this, but I
I'm
mean it
already
from a
offended.
good place, okay? But I think if you're talking about history and a lot of the things, I really think it comes down to finances. I'm not saying that I think this is correct, but think about it. Throughout history, it's probably very likely that the majority of men had more of the money. And so when a
Eskel,
church focuses on the guys.
women weren't allowed to have jobs because of men.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So
So
what
so
about
think
that?
about it though. If the churches are focused on basically just another form of a business,
But there were
then
churches back then too. What do you mean?
I know that's what I'm talking about. I think the
Wait.
reason
So your
why,
whole point of women not being able to be leaders is because they make less money?
well,
I'm mad.
sorry, yeah, I mean, essentially that's what I'm saying. If women would have been extremely wealthy and rich, they probably would have been the leaders of all the churches throughout history. I'd bet. Does that not make sense? Sorry.
We should research some countries where women were the queens and were the
Well,
bread.
think of it. Right now, well, I guess she's not anymore, but like England, the Queen of England, she was the wealthiest woman in all of Europe, right? She like was the queen of the whole place, and so I feel like that allowed a lot of women empowerment, right? I mean, sorry, this could be coming from a twisted perspective, but I just think back to how money is power in so many ways, and I think that was the same case in history. I think whoever had the money had the power, and vice versa. And so that's
But
when
why do you
that could
think
happen.
that why do you think that men wanted to make sure that for example, women couldn't vote, women weren't allowed to work. When they were allowed to go to school, it was to be wife and learn how to cook and clean. Why do you think that that was? Now we're getting all deep, and you don't think it has anything to do with narcissism in men, thinking that men shouldn't be on the same playing field as a woman?
Well, I think if you're saying just men being sexist, I think that definitely plays into it because essentially, I think that throughout history, men viewed, it's very clear to see that men viewed women as lower class, right? And so if they have that
Even though
view,
we
it
brought
could.
life into the world, we brought them. Every single man had to be. in a woman's belly to be born.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not saying I'm agreeing with them at all, man. I feel like you're getting mad at me because I'm telling you
I'm
what I think
not.
history was like. I don't agree. I think men and women should be equal. But I'm saying that from the looks of history, it's very clear to see that that wasn't the case, right?
Yeah.
I'm just stating what I feel
But
like is
I'm trying
facts
to
from history.
figure out what. Well, I mean, obviously, we're gonna in 5 seconds. 5 seconds explain why the history is the way it is. But I really think some of it, at least some of it, may, especially in American history, it stems from narcissism. I think racism stems from
Well,
narcissism.
don't you think, yeah, being sexist could stem from narcissism as well? I think that
Yeah,
could totally correlate, 100%, for
that's
sure.
true. That's a good point. I
Mhm.
just think it's frustrating that religions are still doing that, though. That a lot of religions still think that a woman shouldn't, like the Duggars when they were talking about how they all have to learn their. Dang it! I need to. That's gonna be in the next episode where the women find out what their purpose is and the men find out, and all the women are basically supposed to be moms. Same with the order, though. Like you have one job, that's
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, don't you think
Pretty
that's
honest.
finally changing though? I feel like we finally come to like a an evolved enough society that's matured enough, and I feel like that's changing now. It's finally becoming. I know it's going to take time. Obviously, it's not going to happen overnight. But don't you feel at least to some degree that's finally changing?
Yeah, I do think so. And sorry, someone's clapping at Darcy's comment. I want to see what Darcy said.
Wait, what do
Darcy
you mean?
said,
They're clapping? You can clap at a comment?
no, they just did a clap emoji.
Oh, I see.
Oh, this great niece says, if Aunt Darcy isn't picking on us, then how do we know she loves us? They all know I poke fun. Oh. I do think that things are changing more. And you know what I've noticed? I think that there's been a really rapid shift in women rising, basically. And I think it's it's not even necessarily that men are helping us rise, it's that women are finally not putting up with it. So many women now, I talked about this in my last video actually. Women are choosing not to have kids now more than ever, especially in America. And I think it's just women are finally like, I'm not gonna settle. So now there's a lot of single men because we're not gonna settle for someone who's not gonna be what we want. And if we can't
Mhm.
get that, we're fine with being alone because why would we? So you have two choices. You're going to be alone and happy with yourself or with someone who brings you down.
Yeah,
So
it's
don't
either
settle.
alone and happy or together and sad. But
Exactly.
but
So I think
also I think the movement helps, you know, because if you're the only girl being like, I'm not putting up with this BS, that would be really hard to stand alone. But now that you have millions of other people supporting you and relating with
supporting
you,
the idea,
sharing
yeah.
with you that they feel the same, now you it's a lot easier to actually share how you
And
truly
then
feel.
because so many women are doing that and not putting up with men who are going to be absent fathers and these terrible guys, because women are standing up, then it forces a lot of men to have to do better, or they'll also be alone. If they want to be alone and they want a family, they're going to have to do better. So
Yeah.
honestly, to have self-respect is going to be better for everyone. There's this quote that, dang it, I can't remember the quote. I'm sure someone in the comments will remember this quote. Women need to scream loud about their, I don't know, trauma and abuse so that the next one doesn't happen. Basically, every woman who speaks out and it respects themselves and publicly is basically, if they're even just doing it for themselves, they're not just doing it for themselves. They're doing it for all the rest of the women.
Hmm.
So
Well,
I,
yeah,
I
I
butchered
think
it. I
that's
butchered
in
that.
life. Everything that you work on and like basically put towards helping society, you're not just doing it for yourself. You're helping so much more. That's why I love the butterfly effect. Your decisions, the reasons why you should be extremely conscious about your decisions and actually think about what you're doing is because it does so much more than just
Mhm.
making that one decision. It affects way throughout time, you know, so many
And the
other
way you,
ways.
yeah, the way you live your life, do you want it to be in support or like yeah, and growing and growth for you and everyone around you, or do you want it to be digressing? Pick
Exactly.
a side.
There you go, for sure.
Diana says, we can thank the previous generations for slowly fighting their way into higher positions and professions and paving the way for the women that followed them. Oh, yeah. There's some really good TV shows and documentaries. There's one with Julia Roberts in it. I wish I remember the name of it, but she's basically something smiles. Something smiles. Is that what it's called? I don't know. But it was a true story about how back in the day with the women that could only go to college for basically how to be a good wife, and they fought that. That's so sad that we had to fight that. No, you're just gonna be a wife, okay?
Yeah, if I were a woman, I honestly would feel like, what took so long? Like, man,
I
why did it
feel
take
like,
all this time?
yeah, if I was a woman back in the day, oh my gosh, I almost feel like I would have done a sex change and just moved to a different town and pretended to be a man so that I could be able
Ooh.
to
You,
have the.
you
I bet
know,
you some
what if
women
that
did.
happened? Yeah, I
I bet you
guarantee
some
you
women did.
people have done that.
Yep. Like,
Oh,
oh,
man.
I'm just gonna be a man now because apparently having my anatomy means that I'm not allowed to have a job and make money, and I have to
Mm-hmm.
bear kids.
Yep.
I bet you
True.
some smart ladies did that.
Mhm.
But
But
I'm gonna
but
research that.
in defense of the all the guys out there, there's still great guys out there. I think it's there's a purpose and a reason why we need to fight for women's rights, but it's not to um, degrade or like make it feel like women can't, but guys can still help with it because there's obviously there's there's a difference, that the women have been oppressed, and so I feel like helping and supporting them is still something that we can do to help. There's lots of good guys out there that don't want to step on women.
Yeah. And
So
I'm on TikTok too much, but I've been following so many TikTok accounts where they're basically just men calling out other men for because there's still this swath of men who still believe in inequality and that women's place is in the kitchen, and then they have podcasts now and they're talking about they're allowing them to have podcasts. Andrew Tate exists. Just kidding. He does though.
yeah.
But I really feel like it says so much about these men that are on TikTok that are speaking. They don't have to, but they're speaking up for, and a lot of them are gay men. Sadly, it's mostly gay men, but
Wait,
some of them are.
really? What?
Yeah, the gay
Huh.
community has. I feel like the gay community has really helped women's rights because also you'll hear a lot of people in the gay community being like, "Women helped us get our rights, so we need to help them." Like we
Mm-hmm.
need to return the favor.
Well, you don't need a reason to help somebody. Like we should. What That's why I'm like, why has it taken so long to realize that they bring just as much to the table? We're all human beings. We're all on this earth, intelligent beings that are there to build each other up and help each other. That's the whole
Yeah.
point. So.
Yep. I agree. And I think that these cults definitely promote. I mean, I feel like most people that are making that content about like women should be in the kitchen, da da da. So for some reason, they're usually very religious too. So I wonder why that correlates with it. I don't know.
Huh.
I don't know.
Yeah. It could
My
be
brain hurts
like
all this.
tradition too. Because think about it, I feel like, well, we should look for one, Amanda. Is there a single religion out there that is not sexist? That's my question. Or are all religions usually inherently sexist? That's my question. Because my
Maybe it's
guess is,
because
from what I've seen, every religion has different gender roles. I don't know if that would necessarily count as sexist, but like saying that women have to do this and guys have to do this, that sounds kind of sexist. And if every religion has different roles like that, then that could mean all religions are inherently sexist, right? Unless I don't
yeah.
know all the religions, though. I fully accept we might be able to find one that's not. I don't know. So, but it would
Yeah.
be interesting.
And maybe that's what it is that most religions believe in marriage and children. And so then inevitably there becomes this hierarchy of power and man of the house and
Mm-hmm.
roles that don't necessarily make a lot of sense. Because, like, just because you're a woman doesn't mean you should be cooking in the kitchen and you want to be doing that. And
Mhm.
also, what if the man's the better chef? Like, these are dumb questions, but they're like smaller questions than the bigger ones.
Well,
Same
that's the thing.
concept.
Like, yeah, I think it's totally acceptable for relationships to have, that expectation. Since you're the better cook, you might cook more of the meals or something like that. But what I hate is that there's this um, social expectation. Like I'll argue about this all the time. I don't like that every time I go on a date, it's like it's not up to us to decide if maybe I ask them on the date, so I'll pay for the dinner or whatever. It's social expectation to be like, hey, you have a penis, so you better pay. Like I don't
Well,
like that it's not decided between us, and we get to decide what kind of relationship we want and how we're going to,
yeah.
help build each
Uh,
other up, rather than we're just
me
like
and
scared of
Eskel,
social
me and
pressure.
Eskel have
You know.
had conversations about this topic multiple times, and I'll
Mhm.
say my 2 cents. If you are potentially dating a woman who you want to have them bear your children, paying the bill is not that big of a deal. And
Oh,
if
I
a
agree.
woman's gonna go on
Hmm.
a date with someone, and here's just my opinion. If I'm gonna go on a date
Hmm.
with someone, I'm gonna spend 2 hours getting ready for you. I'm gonna go on this date with you, and you want me to split the bill or pay the bill. Me being someone who let's say I'm dating to want to have kids and get married. I'm gonna cancel the guy out who wants me to pay because I already am gonna pay 9 months for the child. Duh, and more. So if someone is not as willing to do those small little things in the beginning, I'm gonna easily not going on another date with them. Not because a lot of people be oh, because you're a gold digger. No, because I want better for my kids. I deserve better than that.
I, I only can agree with you on that as long as the expectation is spoken up front. If you just go on the date and don't talk about any of this, then I feel like you are setting yourself up for failure to have those gender role specifics. Because unless you discuss this with them and you're both on the same page to understand that and see that same perspective, then it could work 100%. But if you don't do that, then they could, that's going to be, could be interpreted as, okay, there's a man's role and a woman's role, rather than this is the
No, because
reason why
if
we are
I'm going
doing
out with
that.
my friend, if I'm going out with a guy that's my friend, then yeah, I'll offer to pay or But if you are wanting to court me for a potential future and you're not willing to even invest in that first date, like I invested 2 hours into getting ready for you and putting my expensive $100 perfume on for you, and I'm spending money.
Wait, wait,
I'm
wait,
spending money too.
and here's the thing. I understand a man showing that appreciation, but that I feel like that has to be communicated though. How are you just going to give that unverbal expectation and expect them to interpret it the same way you're intending that to come across,
Can
right?
we do a poll? Can we do a poll and say, would you go on a second date if the guy split the bill? And then do yes, no. Can we do a poll and see? Because
If
I
you
feel
if
like
you
it's a
can do it, will
social
it let you
norm.
do it? I don't know how to
It's
do the
kind of like you're
polls. Let me
saying
see.
you should tell someone that you're gonna shake their hand before you shake it. Like, hey, I'm
No,
gonna
no,
put my
no,
hand
no, no.
out.
It's like saying
I'm
this,
gonna shake
Amanda.
your hand.
Why is the expectation that the man will pay? Why can't it be? Because to me, I really appreciate the
Because it's the
expectation.
expectation that the
If
woman will give birth.
if
Isn't
the
that a
guy
harder
if
thing
the
to bear?
guy if the guy asks them on the date, then they will pay for it. But if the woman asks them on the date, then the woman could have that
Okay, yeah.
discussion,
If
to
I
split it
if
or to
I
pay.
and I have asked a guy on a date and I did offer. And I was
Okay,
fine with
there you
it
go.
because I was the one that and I chose everywhere we went. But also
See,
if the
see.
guy
So isn't that a better way to communicate where you can both be on the same page and have the same expectation rather than just unspoken of I'm gonna I guess wear some cologne to make it worth it for you. Like that's unspoken, unrealistic expectations. I feel like, right?
it could be, but if I still do think along the same lines as you, if the guy asked the girl on the date, the guy should expect to pay. I'm
Exactly.
not
Yeah,
gonna
yeah. That
I'm not
is a
gonna pay
much
for something
better
you yeah.
understanding where you can be on the same page. But just automatically because of social pressures or whatever, expecting that, I think that's going to set up the wrong idea. You know, personally.
Do you
But
know
as long as you have to write the same, if you're on the same page though, it works. It's great. So, But
I watched this girl on TikTok. So I was scrolling on TikTok so far. I wonder if anyone knows who I'm talking about when I quote this girl. She's like, when a guy asks what you bring to the table, you'd be like, what are you talking about? What do I have? If you're going to ask me to bring something to the table, I'll bring another man who will bring something to the table and pay for all of us. And you, because it sounds like you need something at the table. Sprinkle, sprinkle. I was listening. I was like, that is an interesting way to think about it.
Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. I personally, I've paid for a lot of dates that I've gone on, but I just don't like it to be because of social pressure. I want to pay because I'm showing appreciation, right? I'm showing that I really care about them and things
Yeah.
like that.
And they
But
should be
but
appreciative of
I
it.
I love it when the girl offers to pay, even though sometimes I won't even let them. I mean, I'll admit sometimes they have paid, but I think just the gesture is also showing a lot of appreciation.
I
But
definitely have been like, to be nice, offer to pay, and literally, I have my purse and I pretend, and like I just like get a
that's
coupon.
so mean.
No,
That's so
because they
mean.
always pay. They always pay, and I'm just like, oh, you're gonna, I'll give it, and I'm like, pull out. There's nothing in here. Because
Oh my
I do
god.
understand the niceness of the gesture, but the man
Oh yeah.
should pay. If they're asking me on a date,
But
they're
why
picking
though?
out because you're
Because they
asking
asked you.
me for
Yeah.
my
Okay.
time. You're wanting me to cut time out of my day to go to some restaurant that you want to go to, and I'm vegan. I can't even eat anything off this damn menu. I entertained you for
So
an
then let me
hour.
ask
Pay
you this
up.
though then. So if you ask a guy on a date, you're 100% okay with paying for it?
If I ask them on a date, I really want to go on a date with them. I've only ever done that
Hmm.
once, and I really
So
like the
you've
guy.
only ever wanted to go on a date with someone once?
I've only ever asked a guy out once, which I should do
Hmm.
that more often. But yeah, I only asked him out
Interesting.
once. But we went on
That
multiple dates, and the dates afterwards he paid for. So
thing.
sprinkle, sprinkle.
Hey, we could have a whole conversation on this, man. I would do the
We
poll
did
if I knew
do
how.
it.
I don't know how to put a poll up on this though. But
Can I do
yeah,
this?
this is
Can I do a
huge.
poll?
See if
Oh.
it'll let you put it up.
Hmm.
I'm curious because this is something I love controversial topics, and this is something that I'm trying to get a better understanding about it. But I just can't help but feel like we're trying to help bring equality, right? I want more of the elimination of men, being. I just think if women have this expectation from men, then that could put this type of idea inside of their heads. And
Okay,
so I
but
think there's
okay,
a
I have
better way to do
another
it.
thing for you.
Okay, let's hear it. Let's see. Oh my goodness, this is good stuff. I like it.
Every woman in the chat is gonna answer the same. Okay,
Are you
we all
sure? You speak for all women here. Are you sure? You positive?
speak up. Speak up if you disagree with me. As a
Okay.
woman, let's say as a woman,
Okay.
you have 3 men that want to date you and pursue you, and they're all
Okay.
equally good looking. They're all equally intelligent. They're all equal. One of them takes you to
It's never gonna
McDonald's.
happen. But okay, go ahead.
One of them takes you to McDonald's
Okay.
and asks to split the bill. The other one takes you to a fancy restaurant, but has you pay for it. And the third one pays for it and brings a gift and flowers. You're gonna pick the
Ooh.
one that paid, okay? You're gonna pick the one that thought about it, that planned
Okay.
it,
Okay.
that
Okay. Okay.
thought
Can
you
I
were
can I
worth
ask
it
you
to do
something
that
then?
and not take it to McDonald's.
Okay. Can I ask you something then?
No. Close for questions. Just kidding.
uh, what
Ask.
if though? What if? Because I got to look at the statistics on this. But what if you found out that statistically, the one that pays for it all and always pays and demands to pay is going to be more likely to be sexist than the one that takes you to McDonald's or asks you to split?
So one is more sexist and the other one is poor.
No, no, no. More likely to be sexist. Yeah.
What's worse? Just kidding.
What? That's not even a question,
I'm
is it?
just kidding.
See,
Um,
sometimes I fear we unconsciously make the decision to go with the person that pays or buys us flowers or something
no,
when
but no,
when
my
some of those
scenario.
some of those traits come with negative traits along
No, but
with
my
them.
scenario was they are all the same.
They're
My
all the what?
My scenario was they're all the same. They're all the same, good looking, same personalities, basically. One just offers more and treats you nicer on the first date. Gives you
Okay.
makes you feel more.
If that is true and that's the case, then sure, yeah, there's a
You're
pretty obvious answer.
who's rich in a set,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
and
Yeah.
obviously because my mental health is more
Mm-hmm.
important than
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. But then at that point, it's like, yeah, why does anyone need to get in a relationship? If you're happy you're single, why would you get in a relationship just because they buy you flowers? That doesn't make sense to me. Goodness says flowers are fluff. Yeah, they're pointless. That if you're gonna get convinced to be with someone because they buy you flowers, that's the wrong mentality. This is fun. This is fun. I'm gonna throughout the week. I'm gonna be thinking of more questions along this, and then I want to ask them to you in a video. That'd be fun.
you are settling for is what you think you deserve. So if
Well,
you
no, no,
think
no,
you
no.
deserve,
It's about priorities, Amanda. What do you prioritize more? What matters the most to you?
if
That's
you
my
think you
question.
deserve a rich, sexist, you will settle for that. If you think you deserve a,
Hmm.
you will get a poor kind. You are just looking for what you think you deserve, and the person that you end up with
Hmm.
reflects how you feel about yourself. It really does. If you end up with someone
Really? Hmm.
abusive to you and you're okay with that, you think you deserve
Probably
it.
because you
Down,
abuse yourself in your head, huh?
mhm.
I could see
Unless
that.
unless you're in a very scary situation that you feel like you can't leave. That's different than someone who feels like I deserve this. I'm not going to find anything better. And I'm speaking from someone who was that. I deserve this. I'm
Hmm.
never going to find something better than this. You don't. I don't. I didn't think I was worth anything better than that. So now,
Oh,
having been
wow.
through everything I've been through in life, I'm not going to settle for someone who wants to split the bill and who already sees me as someone who is not worth that much. Does that
Hmm.
make sense? I'm kind of cutting off the time and getting to know them by figuring that out quicker.
Hmm. Yeah,
Whereas
but to
before,
me, I feel like you're putting a little too much value on someone paying for a meal. To me, I appreciate the gesture of a girl paying for a meal, but to me, I'm like, I can make my own money.
but
It doesn't matter if you
if you think
pay.
about it
What
this way,
matters is how you treat me.
if you
Way
think about it
more.
this way, being a woman going on a date, right? Um, if this man really likes me and really wants to pursue me, then he's gonna want to impress me and he's gonna want to make me want to go on a second date with him, right?
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it
but
would not.
wouldn't the way he treats you and his personality matter more than what he buys for you though, or paying for the meal? Wouldn't that be more important?
I mean, yeah, that matters more, but also wouldn't that gesture mean a lot more, especially on the first date when the first impression is there?
Yeah, in
So
the
if
same
you
way
really
that when
like,
the girl offers, it's appreciated, right?
yeah, but if you
Hmm.
really like a girl, Eskel, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to marry this girl, would you even consider splitting the bill with her? You would want to make sure you paid for it, right? Because you liked her so much, and that first date is everything because you want to get her on a second date, right?
I
But if you're
suppose
like,
so.
I
Yeah.
don't care if I go on a date with her again, she can pay the bill. Hmm?
Yeah. Well,
That shows how much you like them.
in one scenario, I suppose, yeah, for sure. But I still feel like my desire to want to pay for the meal is a little bit more undervalued because money doesn't mean as much as having an amazing partner. Having this great relationship. I feel like it's might be just the view of money that we're looking at here that's a lot different. But
Yeah,
I don't know. It's interesting.
yeah,
But that's why I think this is really important to have, because I think the bigger picture is, so long as you're both on the same page, that's what matters the most. Because if one person has unspoken of expectations, like, I hate the scenario where it's like, how people will use it against you. They might be like, I bought you flowers, I got you that Gucci
yeah,
bag, I paid for that dinner, you better have sex with me. Like, when people have those unspoken expectations, that's the worst. That's, you
yeah,
don't want that. That's a toxic. idea to even have,
That's true.
you know?
But my
So,
whole point in all of this thing is how you keep saying like, oh, well, what if this guy has a lot of money but he's also sexist? Or oh, what if it's like a very black and white, you can't get it. But if there's a scenario where there is a man who has all the qualities I want and they also are stable enough to take care of me and a family, I would want that. I'm not
yeah.
like, I have to be humble. I have to date a poor guy because I have to be humble.
No, no, no,
I
no.
did
I
that.
agree with you 100%. You shoot for the stars, you don't settle. All I'm trying to say is them paying for the meal or being open to splitting it with you is not going to. It's not as big of a factor as it sounds like you're making that decision is. At
Yeah.
least
But
in a guy's head, I don't think it's as
also
big of a deal.
a lot of
But
poor guys, broke guys, are also the sexist guys too. A lot of guys that are super sweet holding the door open for you, but they still want to split the bill. Then you still get the narcissistic abuse that you would have got with the rich guy. But with the rich guy, you could get a Chanel bag and a Bentley.
I I agree with you. In both cases, you can end up screwed. 100%. Yeah. But I'm just saying that one factor is not what's going to determine it. There's way more to consider and other things that I think are going to point out a more of a chance to be with someone that's not sexist versus something else, you know? So,
Yeah.
but
I forgot to
that's
add
all.
sprinkle, sprinkle. Not Eskel. Nope. I'm with Amanda on this 100%. Flicker
Come on, Flicker
A
Fade. Come
man is
on.
agreeing with me. So
Huh.
he's saying if you want to make a good impression, then just the least of your concern is just pay the bill. Because here's your odds, Eskel. The girl you're wanting has multiple. If she's dating, she's on dating apps. She's got other guys that are taking her on dates. You got some competition.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna go to the
True.
bottom of the list if you're not willing to. I'm like yelling and I'm alone in my room yelling. But does that make sense? Just to like the gesture of it, and the girl,
Mm-hmm.
usually the girl is spending hours getting ready for you and putting her nice perfume on for you, doing her makeup for you, and she's going to
Mm-hmm.
ask you questions that she's going to care about. And I mean, if she's not having a good time, then that's different. But
Yeah, and here's the thing though. Here's the thing. I guarantee you, a lot of the times, them putting in that effort, putting in all that time to look nice, is probably one of the reasons that helped me to even ask them on the date in the first place, right? So I'm not discrediting at all that women bring a lot to the table, that they put in a lot of effort. 100%. All I'm saying is that, from my perspective, I think the gesture of them paying or not is not as big of a deal as what it sounds like you're valuing that at. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
but the
I still will
gesture,
pay. I still think 100% it helps. It's a good
yeah.
thing, but you know
The
that's
gesture
all
though
I'm
of a woman showing up for a date, even though statistically you could kill her, and you don't have to walk around with that worry. You're not worried that your date's gonna do that to you, right? That's
I mean,
every
I could
single
though. If
date.
I was paranoid, I could go and freak myself out, but I don't. I wouldn't want to. I don't know why
But
you're going on a date worried you're gonna get murdered. Why are you putting that in your head?
does anyone
What?
in the chat want to tell me how many times you've been on a date and had to bring pepper spray because you were scared? Does anyone want to? I bet you almost every woman in the chat has been a little nervous to lose their life meeting this man because of
Why are they going on a date if it's risking their life? I
because
don't.
every single man is a risk statistically to us. You know what
Hmm.
men when men say I'm going to protect you. You know what they're going to protect us women from? Other men. So it is a logical thing. Look, someone's saying your privilege is showing, Eskel.
Interesting.
This is the constant the struggle of being an older sister to a younger brother. Like you have to hey,
Well,
but he
here's the
did it.
thing.
He did grow up as a
I just can't help but feel like you're right. Maybe I've never had so much fear going out,
You've never
but
feared for your life on a date with a woman, and that is something almost every woman.
yeah, but
Look, I still
I
carry.
don't
Yep,
fear
every
for my
woman is
life
saying yes.
jumping out of a plane. Like I don't live my life full of constant fear. I would never want to do that. I feel like why would you want to do that? I don't understand.
If you Eskel, let me put yourself in a woman's shoes for a second. So try really hard for a second. If 90% of your relationships with women You were either abused as a child by women, and then in a relationship you were physically abused by the women, and then you have had so many bad experiences with women that now your guard is up, and the statistics of women killing men are skyrocketing, and the odds of a partner dying from the woman killing them is as astronomically high. You even know people who have been killed by women. Are you really gonna not be worried about women and walk around like this? Are you not afraid of bears, Eskel? Are you gonna go on a date with a bear?
Wow. If women really view men that way, like I'm
Men have
shocked that they
made it
go on
that
dates
way.
with them
Men
then.
have made it that way. If
Hmm.
you watch prison documentaries of why all of the men have been to prison, you'll hear rape, murder, all of these things. You watch why the women went. It was protecting myself against my rapist. And sometimes there's some crazy ones that are, oh, I went crazy and I killed a bunch of people. There's those too. But like the
Hmm.
statistically speaking, and in our own time, and you know this too, Eskel, most of the abuse in your life was by men. But you're
Yeah.
not dating men, so you don't have to worry about them hurting you on the dates.
Yeah,
You
but
don't
I
have to
still
worry.
have guy friends. I still go around guys. And I feel like that blows my mind though, because I can see why men are scary. The statistics about them, anger tantrums,
It's
they
not even
can
just
go
statistics,
crazy,
Eskel.
right?
In my own life, the most abused I have been has been from the hands of men.
Mm-hmm. But
So
then
why wouldn't
wouldn't
I
you
be
take that
afraid of
into
men?
account then when you're hanging out or going on a date with a guy? Why would you go on a date that with someone that's you're afraid of them? I'm
So
just
I should
trying to
be
fully
lesbian?
comprehend that.
So I should be lesbian? Is what you're saying?
If you're living in constant fear, and that's the only way to stop it, I suppose. But I'm trying to understand why there's constant fear, I guess,
It's
because
not constant
I
fear. It's
understand certain people. I've been around guys that scare me. I'm a short little person, there's guys that scare me 100%. But I don't I feel like if I was scared of someone, I would maybe avoid them, or something. I probably wouldn't go on a date with someone that I feared for my life with.
then I should be lesbian. Because how am I supposed to know that every man's intentions are good when I'm going on a date? Sometimes when you go on a date, you don't know the person very well. So what I do is I'm smart about my dates. I go into a public place. I don't have them pick me up. I drive there. I go there. Because then there's less of a chance that he's gonna kidnap me or do whatever he's want to do.
Hmm.
This just
Yeah.
happened in Utah too, where a guy went on a date with this girl, took her back home, and she fell asleep in his arms and he stabbed her.
What?
Yep.
Really? Dang,
So I'm not saying, and this
that's
is
scary.
also, it's also not like me being so paranoid about all these other people's stories. I've personally seen men go insane on women,
Hmm.
personally. And
No,
because
no,
we
I
are,
agree with you. I understand that, all guys have that risk that they can hurt people. People can hurt people. I understand that, but I guess I'm confused about not, I guess, wanting to do something about that. How is me paying for your meal? How does that make up for that? That doesn't seem worth it at all. I feel like.
yeah, Angela has a good point because we don't know them yet, hence dating.
Hmm.
So like I wish I could have been a man and to never ever know what it's like to worry for my life on a date. Like, yeah, or
Would
worry
would
like
would would carrying a gun with you help? I feel like if I was scared, I would take my gun with me or something. Would it? Isn't there
pepper
something that
spray,
can be done to not
pepper
live in
spray and
constant
just
fear?
being in public, and I have my locations on and my
Mm-hmm.
sisters know where I'm at, and sometimes the guy doesn't know this, but I'll do a check on him and I'll have the profile sent to my sisters. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how dedicated you have to be, and even still sometimes something can happen. Sometimes sexual assault can still happen, sometimes, because men have a reputation. And so what am I going to do? By your logic, I should either not live in fear and just jump into the arms of these men that could potentially be killing me, or
That's
if
not
I'm
what
going to
I'm
live in
saying.
fear,
Don't go get yourself killed, Amanda. I'll be your bodyguard if you need. I'm just saying, if it's really that scary, then it
it
sounds
is
like you're setting
scary.
up precautions, and that's what I would do too.
Yeah.
but then that I feel like reverses the whole conversation, because then them paying for a deal is for that date. If they pay for that date, that's not worth it. That's not enough for you to put your life in danger.
There
You're
you
really gonna
go.
risk
So
your life for a
pay the
meal?
damn bill.
But that still though, you really, if that's really the constant fear that you're going through on every single date, that still doesn't seem like it's worth it. Is that
It's
that's
not.
a very
Sometimes I go
uneven
on the
trade-off.
date. Sometimes I go on the date and they paid, and I still feel like it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Like sometimes that I have to endure verbal abuse from men. Like one time, this guy literally, he kind of was talking like you, but even worse. He was like, "Oh, women are just dumb for thinking that they have to protect themselves against men. Like that's a false thing that they have in their head." I'm like, okay. Even though like 1 in 4 women will be sexually abused by the time they're 18,
Mhm.
and it's always by men. So
Yeah, I totally understand the concern, and taking precautions for sure. But then I feel like that would add to my point of that, wouldn't the way that the man acts or is be more valuable than them paying for the meal or not? Like, sure, we could still say they pay for the meal or not, but wouldn't him not seeming dangerous or a risk to your life be a much bigger deal then? Isn't
that
there other things that are a lot
isn't
more
that
valuable
isn't
going on
that
a date?
setting the bar so low? Hey, I didn't make you feel in danger, so you pay the bill. That should be common. That should be what is the bare minimum is I felt safe on this date, right? That's the
For sure,
bare
100%.
minimum.
Yeah.
But we
Hmm.
sometimes don't even get that. And then to still have
Huh.
to wonder if I'm gonna have to pay the bill, you know what I mean? It's like, why would I even go out then? Why would I go on a date with
Well,
you?
that's my question. If I was as paranoid as you make it sound, Amanda, I would
Make it
not go on
sound.
dates.
All the girls are agreeing with me. You're
No,
you're
no,
you're
you're right. You're right.
invalidating me right now.
No, no,
It's
no,
not
you're
make
right.
it sound.
If
That
it
is the way
is
that it
that
is.
scary, then I feel like I wouldn't go. Right? Isn't Wouldn't that be one of the conclusions? I guess. How about this?
It's
Are there
okay.
dates that you have gone on that haven't been scary? There has to be a way where you can do it without being in fear, right? Isn't there some
Diana says basically we
alternative?
have just gotten used to living like this, Eskel, like it's the normal for most women, and it's because of men that we have to live like this. Amanda, let's see, what did Darcy say? Someone's responding to Darcy. So men have a flicker face says okay, so men have bad dates too, but the fear isn't the same. 100%, 100. See, flicker fade gets it. They say men are afraid of being laughed at and women are afraid of being killed. Yep. The number one thing on a first date is men are afraid of being laughed at and women are afraid for their lives. So, yeah, bare minimum on the date is they should make you feel comfortable and safe. But also, I feel like the next
For
level
sure.
up is they should just take care of the bill because we already went through, all of us already went through being nervous that this man is a psychopath. And then still got ready for 2 hours to go meet them, this stranger, right? I don't know. And to me, I'm like, if I'm gonna go through all of this for someone who doesn't even want to pay the bill, I don't care to go on another date with them because
Yeah.
I as a woman
It sounds like
don't
though
feel
them
like
paying
I
for the
deserve that.
meal doesn't that's not even enough though. If they don't make you feel safe, and like they make you, if they still cause you to have all that fear, to me I feel like paying for the meal isn't enough. That doesn't seem worth it. That's just That's interesting though. I've been told, I've heard
Are you
multiple
shocked
times
that the
that
whole the
girls are
whole? Are you
scared to
shocked
go
that
on
your
dates.
entire audience is agreeing with me?
No, no, I agree with you. I totally understand where
You
you're coming
don't.
from.
I feel like you
What do you
you
mean?
didn't understand it until now.
I still don't fully see why there's so much fear, I guess, but I get it that girls are, they have to have like some precautions that they take, so because of all of the experience that they go through, for
Yeah.
sure.
And
But
Juanita has a good point. I am a woman and I disagree with the who pays stereotype, but you're correct about violence against women. So I guess my whole main point is uh oh, what we've just learned today is a lot of probably everybody in the chat has been worried for their life trying to go on a date with a man. that they didn't know. So there's that factor that goes into dating that men don't have to worry
To
about.
me though, doesn't it sound like you're de-escalating the situation though if you're saying them just paying for it solves the
No, no,
problem?
no, no. I'm gonna say what my whole point of this whole discussion is
Mm-hmm.
because for me, I'm not saying for all women, for me, everything I've been through in my life and all the shit I've had to deal with men, I think the least that a guy can do on a first date is pay. I'm not saying that every man should pay, but I do think if the man asks the girl on the date, he should be expected to pay, and he should be
For
like,
sure.
"You're not gonna pay for me. You
I
asked,
agree
you
on
pay."
that because that's
And
common
again,
ground. That's agreed upon.
I
Yeah, for
I
sure.
have paid for a man that I asked him on the date. So I'm
Okay.
saying for me though, and I think a lot of women, they would rather date the guy that's willing to pay than the guys that are gonna be like, "Hey, you gonna pay for this?" You know, that's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying. And it just to
Okay.
me, it looks better. It looks better. It feels better. You feel more comfortable. You feel more like they enjoyed their time with you,
There you
etc.
go. There you go. That's a key. So here's my question then. Does when the guy paid, does that help lower your guards? Does that make it less scary? Is there some sort of correlation with that? Is that why a
I
guy
have
paying
thought about
is so
this.
valuable?
If they paid with a credit card with their name on it, then yes, it does make me feel more safe because
Oh,
their actual information is at this restaurant where there's cameras if I go missing.
there you go. Well, then that's where I would definitely see that there's a lot of value to that then because now it's not just about the money. We're not saying that it's they pay because you're at risking your life, so then they make it worth it for you by paying. That's not it at all. The fact that if a man pays, it can make you more comfortable and make you feel safer, then that adds so much more to it. That's where
Yeah,
I feel like I can 100% agree with. I really like that terminology of this. I think that makes a
yeah.
lot of sense for that.
And that's the thing is, all the points that I'm bringing up too. It's just what I have come to terms with, and with my experience in being married, dating. I've dated a lot since after my divorce, and trying to decide what I value on those first dates and what makes me feel like I want to go on another date.
Mm-hmm.
What makes me feel valued. And one of those things is them paying the bill. I feel valued.
Yeah,
And I feel,
I
you know.
agree. I can see that.
But yeah,
See, here's
bringing
the
up,
thing. Anyone that's gotten mad at me here for not
hey,
seeing it
hey,
as a
hey.
point of view, I want you to understand that I think a lot of guys have a hard time seeing this point of view because we've never had to go through that, go like be afraid for our lives in those situations. So what I think is more important is we need to figure out how to communicate this in a way that guys can understand it. Because I'll admit it didn't make full sense until you explained it in that way. And once we could finally see something that actually showed why that was so valuable, I feel like that's what actually helped me to interpret it in a way to better understand it. Like, don't get mad at me for not knowing what it's like to be a woman. I'm sorry, I've never been a woman. I don't fully know that. But I feel like it's important for us to have these conversations and not be afraid that everyone's just going to hate you because you don't know what it's like being the opposite gender. But we need to have these conversations to know how to better understand one another, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is
I'm not,
extremely valuable to
I
understand this.
wasn't mad at you. I just was a little shocked that you have three older sisters and you don't understand that. You didn't
Mhm.
understand that fear and
Well,
that we
this
all
is the
have lived
first
with.
time you connected it with me that there is a safety that comes with them paying. I've never heard that before. I've never made that connection or understood
Well,
that.
no, I'm not saying that just because you pay the bill, I want to date you and I don't think you're a threat. 100% like, oh, my guard is down
Hmm.
now. I
Yeah.
am saying though that with all the things that we do, for me personally, all the things that I have to go through just to get to that first date with you, I'm not going to go on a second one if I have to pay the bill every time. I'm just
Hmm.
not. Like, it's not worth
Yeah.
it for me. That's
Hmm.
what I'm saying. I'm not saying if you pay the bill, I'll feel safer with you. I'm saying I personally don't think it is worth all the time, energy, fear, anxiety for me to just end up paying the bill at a fucking Buffalo Wild Wings. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's my opinion though. And I'm not speaking for all of the women here there. And I do agree with some of the women that were saying like they don't agree with the whole like, oh, a man should pay every meal. I do think that again, if I ask you on a date, I'm probably gonna offer to pay for sure. But if you ask me, Why, if you want to go on roller coaster rides at Disneyland and have me pay the bill, and I don't even want to go. What's the
Mm-hmm.
logic?
Mm-hmm.
And Angels Among Us says Eskel is coming along. It also has to do with kindness, especially on a date. Kindness is key. Yes,
Oh yeah.
definitely. If a guy shows compassion and empathy and like they actually care about what I'm saying and they remember details of things that I've said, then I'm more likely to want to go on a date with them again. But if I have been listening to them talk the entire date and then at the end of the date they're like, "I really liked you." You don't even know me. I even said 2 words. You like hearing yourself.
There's a lot of people like that though. Some people just love hearing their own voice, you know? It's funny.
Yeah, but I feel like the date should be reciprocated, right? You giving your
Mm-hmm.
points, giving theirs. What did Todd say? It's also something that comes with experience. Yeah,
True.
I agree with that. Because definitely when I was younger, I 100% would be like, oh, the girl should pay half, the girl this, the girl that. But I was also settling for guys that weren't treating me like I deserved to be treated. I feel like over time I was like I just don't want to waste my time with guys that don't think I'm worth being, I'm not even worth the bill at Chili's.
Mm-hmm.
So
True. I like that. I think this was a great discussion. We're definitely out of time, but next time we should try to talk about like putting two attributes side by side and figure out which ones are some of the most important. Because I think like that, someone being kind and caring, I think that outshines a lot of different characteristics about a person. And a lot of guys don't realize that. A lot of guys think they have to be like manly and tough and like act like they don't care and stuff. But really, I think, and like I could totally be wrong, but I think there are some attributes or some things that are really important and could
can I
really
I
benefit,
have one more thing to say because Brooke, I like your comment. She says, I think it's okay for women to be mad that men aren't paying attention. If you hold the right to be offensive, then I hold the right to be mad about it. I agree
Oh
with
yeah.
this because
Mm-hmm.
so she's saying the men like you haven't you're not aware that women have to go through this and you've made it to what you're 25 years old and you still don't understand why women are afraid of men. I
Mm-hmm.
think there is something to be a little frustrated at the self-awareness or the lack of awareness of the world around you, especially someone who dates women, because I'm going to give you an example. I am
Mm-hmm.
not a gay man, but I understand the hell that our half brother had to go through just to love the way he wanted to love. And I
Mm-hmm.
supported him and I stood up for him and I didn't have to understand what it was like to be gay. I didn't have to understand that, but I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to, and I wanted to be empathetic of it. So, do you want to understand what women are going through and be empathetic of it, or do you want to spend the rest of your life not understanding why they're in fear of going on dates? So there
No,
has to
I,
be
I
some
definitely want to
accountability.
understand, but that you got to also got to admit that I may never be able to um, have the same reaction or like same feelings to associate it with. I might not fully be able to connect it with a personal experience or something to help me to fully understand it. But it's just like you said, like you don't have to be gay to want to support and help the with that
The gay
situation, you know.
community, yeah, you
So.
can be a beacon for the gay community. You can be standing there and be straight as an arrow, but you can still be in
Hmm.
support of it and understand where things are lacking in society for them. But so
Hmm.
you should also do that for women, don't you agree?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I have to. I feel like I have to have these conversations to understand what it is that I'm supporting and trying to help. Though otherwise, I feel like I'd be helping it in the wrong way because my first initial reaction to that is that I should be encouraging women to never go on dates because that sounds horrible, right?
Every woman should
But
be
really,
lesbian for your own good. We are not safe.
hmm, yeah. And here's the thing. I totally agree. You know, just like how I'm a full believer that freedom of speech, free agency is going to come with being offended. Like people, I'm going to get offended at things people say. People will get offended at what I say. That's a part of having freedom of speech. You know, we're sometimes going to say things that we don't agree on rather than um, necessarily not liking that or trying to cancel someone. I think it's more important to figure out how to communicate it and talk it over and find out how to better understand it, basically, you know?
Yeah, and the fact that you are here willing to talk about it and willing to hear and be open-minded about it is it does say a lot about you because there's 100% a lot of men like that are 100% not going to even hear it and be like, "Well, I don't understand." And I've been in relationships with those men, and that's the reason they're also part of the problem of why we're not evolving as humans.
Well, I think that's a part of why there's such a kind of like a stigma of like guys and girls almost not being able to I don't want to call it get along because we figure out how to like somehow coexist, but we haven't had like the what I would call like perfect harmony with one another. You know, it's been like in the past, it's been so much of like a hierarchy, and now it's become a lot of like butting heads. I feel like. Whereas we need these conversations, we need to actually like dive into each other's minds to better have that harmony and actually come to like agreeable conclusions
Mhm.
rather than just like if we would have ended this conversation halfway through, I feel like it would have been just butting heads and not getting anywhere, you know, but actually being able to work through it and understand each other and not just get upset and call it a day, then
Yeah.
I feel like that's the best way to actually get anywhere, really. So
Yeah. I hope I didn't sound upset. I was just triggered because I was like, "Oh."
hmm. Yeah, and you
Like,
sounded heated for sure, but I get heated too. It's totally okay. I think that's fine. As long as
yeah.
it you never get so heated that you don't let me talk, you know. As long as we
And
have that respect to keep having the conversation, that's the most important thing. 100%.
that's the thing too is like if I felt like we weren't getting anywhere, there's no point in the conversation and I would just shut down and be like, "Okay." But I felt like we were getting somewhere with the conversation and it was definitely I
And it's
learned
such
a
an
lot too in
important
that.
one that you might as well, because sometimes you might not be getting anywhere, and to me that means you got to shift the perspective because well, we got to admit we view things very differently. We have different mindsets, different life experiences, right? That it's like if we're not seeing eye to eye, it might just be the perspective or the angle that we are looking at the situation, you know. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of other ways that we can try for sure. That's why I love this. We should do this more with other topics that maybe guys and girls don't see eye to eye on, and
Yeah.
have more of this conversation because this was actually really fun for
I do
sure.
like the topic of the gold digger thing though because there's so many guys that are like because a girl wants the guy to pay the bill then they're a gold digger and it's always the guys that don't have any gold to dig that are saying this. Usually the ones that have the gold they're not worried about gold diggers. It's the ones that don't have the it's like how are you worried about something getting stolen that you don't even have? But I would love to
Well,
continue.
have you seen the post? I love the post that says there's two things I don't talk about on social media. It's the girl that I'm worth and money. Not because I don't want to talk about them, but because I don't have.
That's a good point. It's usually the ones that don't have their life together that are giving those advice.
uh,
Brooke says, I've
mhm.
had men, my friends, who defended a guy, someone they don't know, when they made me feel creeped out instead of backing me and telling me to just trust my gut. I hate that. I'm so sorry, Brooke. And that's the thing is like, there's been
See, we
so
got to
many
figure
times
out why. I wonder why that those things happen. You know,
they relate
I want to
more
get
to
to
a
the bottom of
man.
this.
They relate more to a man than they've never met than a woman who is their friend.
Well, think
Yeah,
about that. Think about that. Maybe because my thought on that is that first instinct, when you only get a little bit of information of a situation, it might be easier to put it in a, you know, the perspective of the same gender that you are, but having more time and getting more information on the situation, I think is what is needed to help them to better understand,
yeah.
you know,
But
to
also,
see the
I
full
just feel like
situation.
this conversation has made me realize that most women in my life are very good at putting themselves in other people's shoes. And the people that are really bad at putting themselves in other people's shoes are men. And I don't know why. I don't
Well,
understand
I
it.
put myself in other people's shoes, but I can't help but a lot of the times I think of how would I react to that if I was in their shoes. And I admit I react very differently than what a lot of women might, you know. And
Yeah.
so it's more of instead of just putting yourself in their shoes, you almost have to get enough information to think of how would they react to it. You know, what is their perspective of that situation, so that when you put yourself in their shoes, you not only think what you would how you would react, but why they might react the way that they do. You know.
Yeah.
So I think there's just an extra step that has to be taken when you're talking about different genders, you know. So
Yeah. Definitely, like, cause also, like, me trying to think like a man, that's really hard because I can you see me? My phone might
yeah,
die. But
it's okay.
basically, I
We're about out of
can only
time,
put
but
myself in a man's shoes to the extent of that I am capable of because I don't have the testosterone that you have. I don't have the
hmm
social norms. I didn't grow up as a man. So there's a difference in that, but I feel like it shouldn't be that hard to understand and empathize with what women have had to deal with. And same thing, I bring up the gay community thing a lot because I also feel like a lot of women have sympathized and been there at those rallies for them. But another issue is we don't see a lot of straight men supporting them. I've heard a lot of straight men say, "Why don't we have straight pride?" And it's like, ugh. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to get to the root of the issue. Why is it so
we
hard?
should have that conversation because I've had this conversation with a lot of people and I've seen both ends. I've had conversations with people that are like, "How come I can't wear a shirt that says I'm proud to be straight?" And people that say, "How come people won't wear more like pro pride things?" You know. And it's like I feel like everyone. I always go back to this. If we're in a free country, you have to be okay with people being able to wear whatever they want. So when people are saying like, "Oh, they have so many rainbow flags everywhere," I'm like, we have so many American flags everywhere. You know, if we're in a free country, we have every right to advertise whatever we want. We should be able to be proud of whatever we want to be
Yeah.
proud of. Like
And
we
the
have that
problem
right.
is it's like they wanna act like being gay is this like huge big like take that energy that you have that's so negative towards gay people and go find good use for it. Find the pedophiles and go make some laws for that. We actually need people to be doing that instead of using this energy just to hate gay people who are just want to love. Like it's like
hmm
channel it better. Come on. You have
Oh
that
yeah.
energy. Channel it in the right
hmm
way. I like this comment. Let me show it. It's Juanita again. Women will lie, and this is so true. And we've probably all done this. Women will lie and say, "Sorry, I have a boyfriend," when they don't have a boyfriend because men will respect another man before they will respect the girl. I have had guys though that are like,
Oh, see,
"That's okay."
that like I like that directly you can kind of see the root of the problem because it's
Hmm.
that perspective, that mindset. It's very easy to see that that's an issue, but.
Yeah. Society, men can't cry, etc. Men will open up if you're a safe space. Oh, that is another thing is I do think that obviously society is part of the problem of why there's such an issue with men and women not having like the equal whatever. Men not being able to cry, not being able to be emotional. It's kind of caused them to cut off that. That's a very good point. Cut off that emotional thing that we all have. We
Mhm.
all are emotional human beings, but if you are told from a young age as a boy that that's soft and wussy of you and why are you doing that,
Mhm.
you, then
Yeah, well,
you're
yeah, a lot of
less like that.
society's views are it's almost like society wants to um, make us equal, you know, have us all work together, but then some of society's views sometimes suppress that and isn't fully letting us be vulnerable and be open about everything. And it is kind of sad. But to me, it's like, I'm not just going to be like, oh, that sucks. Too bad. What can we do about it? It's like, no, we can change that. We are society that's like this is a part of our conversation. This is what
True.
we should be working on. So,
Yeah,
but
and that's a I maybe we'll just end it with this. The only way that we can see change is to speak up about it. The only way that
mhm,
we're going to see progress is it's not by not talking about it, it's by talking about these uncomfortable subjects, of putting ourselves in the place that to be able to talk about the things that are the issues, to resolve them and get to the bottom of it. And if we don't
exactly.
if you pretend there's no issue, then it doesn't mean that there's no issue. If you try to ignore the problem, it doesn't mean there's no problem. There's still a problem.
Mhm.
We have to figure out how to get to the bottom of it.
Oh yeah, 100%. I like that. This was really fun. I really enjoyed this conversation. We got
You
to do
know,
this more.
I feel like every time we get on this topic that we talk forever. You
Mhm.
guys are watching this right now. We've had conversations like this before.
Oh yeah.
As
In fact,
siblings, I feel
I
like
think
it's
the
easier.
most heated I've ever had it with was with Cammy actually.
Really?
Cammy and I have gone off about this because here's
We should
here's
do
the
a
reason
podcast
why.
with
It was
Bryce a month.
because it was at a bad time. I think it was like right after maybe one of her breakups or something, and she was just really heated. And we had this conversation, and it went
You're in
wild. It
here.
was crazy.
Maybe we should do
But
a podcast episode.
yeah, we got to. This is fun for sure. But
Yeah. And I think it's easier to talk about with siblings when we grew up together, so I know what you're
mhm.
meaning. But I
Oh yeah.
also think that's why it shocked me so much because
But
I
but
grew up.
but here's the thing though, that I think that's why you and I are able to have these conversations because and I think this is something we all need to work on as well. It's too often that people will present an idea or an opinion, and then when someone else doesn't see that opinion or disagrees with them, they get defensive and almost like like it's like a fighting mode or something, rather than understanding that everyone's not going to see your perspective, and rather than being defensive about it, that's like an opportunity to have that discussion and trying to share, like help them to understand why you have that opinion or view it that way, and
Mm.
fully accepting, letting them share their reason why they don't, because if you know why they don't, it could help you better explain to them why you do have that opinion.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that.
mhm,
That's why to silence someone is the worst. Like you don't silence anyone.
mhm,
Everyone deserves to share their voice, and it can be
exactly.
beneficial in any way. I saw a comment that I wanted to say something about.
Yeah, we have a lot of comments today. This is awesome, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. This is so cool.
Yes, Brooke says no one is stopping them, but free speech means getting to talk back to it and criticize it. Free speech doesn't mean never being called out on your opinions. Yep, free speech means, and that's the thing is when you're talking publicly, you are allowing people to tell you their opinions and tell you whether or not they think that you are right or wrong. Which is, and this is an open space for that. And I've loved everything you guys have added. You guys have added so much to this. Diana
Yeah.
says the amount of men who have attacked women for rejecting them is why women are afraid to just say they aren't interested. Yep. Oh yeah, I have 100% been like, oh, I'm married. And literally one time I was pumping gas at midnight, and this guy's like, "What's your number? What's your number?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm married." And he was like, "Where's your ring?" And I was like, "I left it at home." Please.
Dang, that's
Um,
wild.
Patriarchy hurts men as well. The only negative emotion a man can show is anger. Yeah, patriarchy hurts us all. Yes, Eskel, you can advocate for how the world should be, but you have to act according to how the world is. Yeah.
Yeah, to a degree, but I'm not just gonna conform to society's wants and wills. I'm gonna do my
Yeah.
best to be who I am, but understand though that there may be
But
repercussions.
yeah, it's like saying, well, I don't believe in paying taxes, but if you don't pay your taxes, then well, you
Yeah.
cannot pay your taxes if you want. Let's see what
Well,
happens.
you'd go to jail though. That'd be bad.
Exactly.
But see sometimes you would be making it worse, because if you're in jail you won't be able to help people or teach people or do as much good as you possibly could on the outside,
Yeah.
even if what you believe in might be a positive thing. If you just straight up go straight to doing it against all repercussions, then it might make it harder. It might make things worse. So
Yeah.
but
Amanda,
and
how are
you have
you?
to
I'm
be
good.
understanding though too. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's true. Sarah had a good point too. She said, I dated a guy that cried all the time. It was so annoying as all. He tried to make me feel guilty by crying. So I want to bring this up because literally I just had a conversation with my friend about this. How she was like, yes, I want a man who's emotional and in tune with his emotions, but not if he's crying all the time and then making me feel like he's weak. And I was like, that's interesting. I guess so that means there's a happy medium on that. And I'm sure it's the same for women too. Like probably makes people uncomfortable if every time they see this woman, they're always crying. But
Well,
that just makes
sometimes
you
to
gotta
me,
work through
that's
some
why.
stuff.
What about though? To me, that means that also shows you have to prioritize what matters most.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you're right. There might be a right balance, or there might be something that's more important to you personally. You know, and
Also,
you
Sarah
have
was
to
saying
realize or
that he would
define
make her
that.
feel guilty by crying. That is not good.
That
There are
sounds like the
guys
bigger
that do that.
problem there
Yeah,
for
that's
sure.
the bigger
Hmm.
problem for sure. A guy that's gonna make you feel guilty by crying, like those guys that are like they get caught cheating on you and they're like, "Why are you leaving me? I can't believe you did this." It somehow turns around on the man, like the poor man, the poor soul.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, Denise, yeah, we're still here. We've come to the what's the conclusion of this? Should we end it with the conclusion? My conclusion is I'm not saying that everyone should believe this way, but I
Mhm.
believe for me that if I'm gonna go on a date with a man and I'm gonna go out of my way spending 2 hours getting ready for them, also being anxious and having to bring my pepper spray because I don't know if this guy is a crazy felamaka, uh, and the guy on the date doesn't pay, I'm not going to be inclined to want to go on another date and go through all of that again, so that I can pay for his Pizza Hut pizza, whatever. I don't know. If it's not worth investing for me. But I also believe if
Mhm.
a man asks a girl on the date, the man should pay. If a girl asks the guy on the date, the girl should pay.
Oh yeah.
What's your opinion? Now that we've
Okay,
kind of
so I would start with that. Like, I think it's very important that there has to be agreeable terms like that. Like, if the guy asks them on a date, and then he knows that that's the expectation for him to pay. Same with the girl. Now, if there's one really important thing I take away from this conversation is I kept on associating paying for the date as like some monetary value, but really there's so much more that is being portrayed when you are willing to pay for the person that you're on the date with. So there's a lot more to that, I would say. And so it is a lot more important for them to be willing and able to pay for the date, I
hmm
think. But so yeah, I like that. I think that's a better understanding for sure.
Wait. Brooks saying, Eskel, you can't go on about free speech and then shut down how somebody else expressed themselves. Did you do that in this
Well,
what let's
I
quick
don't want to
about
shut down anybody. Who did I
Yeah.
shut down? I think everyone has every right to say whatever they want, for sure.
Yeah. And if someone was shut down, I don't know where that happened, but definitely that's not okay to have happen. And there's
Hmm.
freedom of speech here. So definitely
Oh yeah.
say your two. I do think when we were talking to each other, we were getting a little heated and talking over each other, and maybe that could be a form of
Hmm.
shutting each other down.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I give Amanda every right to get heated with me because I understand it's coming from a good place and we're gonna get somewhere. It's not just gonna be her yelling at me and that's the end. Like I give her for full permission to get upset at me or put me in my place because I understand it's coming from somewhere good. If it were a stranger, I'd admit I'd be a little bit more like, okay, back off. But when it's someone that I trust and I know it's coming from a good place, I think that's sometimes necessary. We need to know who will actually, you know, have the hard conversations with us and be willing to argue and debate with us sometimes to help us understand how important some of these things are.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that it's that's why I was saying it's easier to have this conversation with you because we're siblings and we know like where each other's coming from. Where it's harder to have this conversation with someone where you don't know their language and how their verbiage is coming off. Sometimes you can feel more attacked by certain words
Hmm.
because they're not in your. Oh, did Brooke says just by saying that they shouldn't get offended, upset, defensive. Did you say that we
No, no,
shouldn't
no.
get
Sorry,
upset?
sorry. I said something about them getting mad or angry. Because here's the thing to me. You have every right to tell me that I'm wrong. I don't have the right perspective. But to me, when someone gets mad or angry, that's them reacting to it. And of course, you have every right to react. But to me, I would rather, if someone offends me, then of course I can be offended. But if I get mad or react to that, that's me almost letting them control me in a way. So to me, I'm just like, I feel like there's
That
no need to get mad. There's no need to be upset here. But we are trying to get to some
You're allowed
conclusion.
to. You are allowed to get
Hmm.
upset if you want to get upset. And
For
also,
sure.
I
Hmm.
had this same thing happen where that woman triggered me today, where she was talking about God, and I was getting very triggered by what she was saying. And I could have
Hmm.
gotten upset about it, which I have every right to. I've been through a lot in my
Hmm.
life to get upset. Like, don't push your ideology on me. I don't believe in what you believe in. Da 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 da. But I
Hmm.
realized that that was a her problem, not a me problem. But I do sometimes believe that angry women have made a lot of change. So sometimes I almost feel like anger creates change and it can be beneficial. Is that bad to say?
Well, as long as it's been as long as you actually have thought about it and you are making that conscious decision to, I guess, be passionate and heated or angry about that situation. But if you're doing it as a reaction to something, I think that's pretty risky, because then you don't know for sure if you are consciously wanting that to portray that. It could just
I
be the
don't
heat of the
know.
moment sometimes.
I agree with you, Brooke. She says, "Nah, people are allowed to have what feelings they choose." I do agree with that, and I also believe that some of my best videos that I've made on YouTube started from anger, and I was able to channel it into something. Like, what am I gonna do
But
with this
but
anger?
do you
Am I
think
gonna
it was a conscious decision though to be heated and be angry about it, or was it just a reaction from something?
So, are you saying that we shouldn't ever act out of anger? Is that what you're saying?
I I think it would be beneficial to not react, but to be conscious about it when you are
Consciously?
going to be heated.
Because I
Because
think,
a reaction to it is just letting, that's what anger management is, isn't it? When someone punches the wall, I don't see any benefit coming from that, right?
yeah, but if
I
you
think
can
you need to
use
be able
that
to
energy,
channel it
same,
and use it in a good
yeah.
way. Hmm.
Same with what I was saying, like these people that are so angry about gay pride, using that anger to channel it towards like
Exactly.
putting
Not
pedophiles
just
in jail.
react to it. Yeah, yeah. That's a great
But
example.
reacting could, so you're saying that someone angrily reacting is, I think I disagree a little bit. Sometimes angry reacting can be the appropriate response. Someone trying to kidnap your kids, someone trying to, things that you need to quick react, and you can react out of anger in some ways. I
Hmm.
think anger is an emotion that we have for a reason, but
Hmm.
obviously anger management is for people who can't manage it. But anger is something that we have for a reason, and we shouldn't suppress it as well. Just like
Hmm.
how men should be able to cry, right? Oh, you can't cry, you're a man. No, that's not healthy either. We have emotions, we just need to know how to regulate them in a healthy way. So to be like, oh,
Exactly.
I'm angry,
Hmm.
that's bad. No, I don't think anger is necessarily bad, but to get to the bottom of
But
why,
but
well,
but if the anger is causing you to do something you don't want to do, and I'm just assuming
I've done
punching a
yeah,
wall is
I've been there
something most
before.
people don't consciously want to do, right? So that's
Yeah,
the one example I'm saying. If
I've
that
definitely
anger
done
is
things out of
causing
anger.
you to
Yeah,
do something that when you reflect back on it, you wish you didn't do, then that's an example of not having that full self
yeah,
control, or
yeah.
not channeling it correctly. And so I just think there's a healthy way to use anger in a beneficial way, for sure. But
Yep. I've definitely had times where I'm like, oh, I should have waited a day and cooled down before I did
mm. Wait,
that.
can I address Todd's question really quick? Because he makes it sound like I think free agency is a little different, but he's saying that your rights only go so far as until you're stepping on other people, which I agree 100%. You can never control somebody else. Your free agency is only yours. You don't own anyone else's. You don't get anyone else's. But that when it comes to freedom of speech, I'm of the opinion, and I totally understand that I could be wrong, but I'm of the opinion that you can never necessarily say something that will control somebody else. You can say anything and everything that you want. It's your freedom of speech to the point when it's not your free agency. That's when you're punching somebody, when you're physically harming somebody, or doing things to affect or take someone else's freedom away.
Mhm.
That's beyond free agency. That's
Yeah.
you ruining someone else's life. But freedom of speech, I don't know of a version of what something you could say that should be against, like that. There's nothing I think people shouldn't be allowed to say. I think everyone should be able to say stuff. Freedom of speech is for everything and everyone,
Yeah.
100%.
And to in reality, like if everyone just said everything that they were feeling, it would be.
Can I chime in?
Cami has a podcast of freedom of speech, so she's the queen of freedom of speech over here
I
joining.
just wanted to say one thing about what Eskel just said.
But Cammy, don't give away too much, because we're still gonna do an Instagram live about this, me and you, okay?
Okay. Well, I
But
was
what do you
just
want to
gonna
say?
say that I agree with you almost 100%. I just don't think it's applicable to underage. So I think,
Minors?
yeah.
Well,
So
minors don't have free agency though.
what?
They
Minors free agency
they
is
got
limited to
No,
their parents,
no,
right?
but exactly what I mean is
Mm-hmm.
you can't say whatever you want to minors
yeah,
because
that's a good.
they
Oh, I see.
they're being, you know what I mean? So I think it only applies to adults.
I literally was gonna say something.
What about the fact though that in this video I can say whatever I want and I can't control if a minor listens to it and watches it though? What about that?
Well, that you're not specifically talking to a minor, and so it's just up to the parent whether they have, you know.
So you're saying if I'm explicitly seeking out a minor and trying to say something to a minor, that's where it can be restrictive. Okay, yeah, I totally agree. Because minors, it's definitely a different situation. 100%.
But also, what I was gonna add on to that is with the form of free agency, what you're saying, like we have the control of our own free agency, we can't control anyone else's free agency, except for I think we should be controlling other people when it comes to a minor. Like let's say there's abuse on a minor, someone's taking that free agency away from this kid that's helpless, or there's someone being, you know, gonna be killed, then we have every right to take the free agency away from the person who's trying to. Isn't it weird though? Like, we can't take away your free agency until you try to take someone else's free agency away, so then I have to take your free agency away from you.
Yeah. Yeah, but see, that's only when their free agency is conflicting upon someone else's free agency. Essentially, the bottom line, everyone should be free. So that person that they're taking free agency away from, that's what we are stopping, you know? So free agency only goes so far with oneself. It's your own free agency. You don't have everyone else's free agency, you know? But this is a good topic. I'm so excited to have this conversation with Cammy.
Hi, Cammy.
Hello.
Yeah.
I just heard, like, as I was walking by, I heard free agency, and I was like, what? Like, hey. What I heard was freedom of speech. That's what I heard.
Nice.
Eskel, Todd says, Eskel, what if you walked into a crowded room and told everyone the building is on fire and it set off a panic and someone got trampled and died?
Ooh.
That's a very.
But here's the thing.
Someone else's free agency.
That's true.
See a way to live life.
And that's also what's scary though, because the butterfly effect, sometimes the small things that you can do act out of not being self-aware.
Yeah, but then couldn't the debate be argued though? It's that those people's reaction is what caused the death, not the person that yelled. Right?
It can be debated that way, but that's why there is so much, like, if you look at laws, majority of laws are around safety. So like physical safety. So if your words are a direct effect of someone's physical safety, then I think that's up for debate on whether you should be allowed to say that.
Well, I mean, it depends. To me, it depends on I guess the location, because you can't go run in someone's house and say fire or like I'm gonna kill you or crazy things. But if you're in a public street and you yell fire, like to not be allowed to yell fire in a public street with public people, I think that would be restricting someone's free agency, wouldn't it be?
Well, again, that's why we have a court of law to be able to assess the situation, because what if this person is caught for the 5th time yelling it in different places that has caused physical harm to people and not helped people, and there was no fire, you know? That's why it does depend on the situation.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably why the law is so, it's hard to be defined on each specific thing, because there's so many unique things to it. Right. But I think in general, in a lot of the time, when it comes to just saying something, then it's usually should be allowed. Now, maybe the whole fact that it's being yelled, I think that could be changed into another category, because it's not just saying something, it's aggressively saying something. Or it's like, because like you going and yelling in someone's ear could potentially even cause damage. You're taking away their free agency at that point. And technically you're just saying stuff, but it's the way you're saying it. So I agree that you can't say everything in every way that you want to, for sure. But just, whispering fire in a room, I suppose, would probably never be able to be taken away from someone if they have free agency. But you're right. I totally understand that maybe in some situations it can be. I don't know the perfect societal ways.
I agree though that to lean on the side of allowing free speech, because it's like, that's why I mentioned maybe this is the 5th time they've done it. Like if they've done it more than once, if they've only done it once, then that's them basically seeing the lines of where their freedom of speech should not be tested, right? Should not necessarily go past.
Yeah. So, because this made me think of how like you obviously wouldn't go walk on an airplane and say, "I have a bomb," right? I remember
Yep,
talking about
see?
this one. There's
Mhm.
gonna be repercussions to that 100%.
Yep.
And the plane security places, they're gonna take precautions for that. So
Exactly.
um, here's another one though. This is one where I feel like it can get a little bit fuzzy in the line, but what about when it comes to talking about pedophiles? When pedophiles online are saying, "Oh, talking about their pedophilia and what that they think it's a good thing and all that." What are your thoughts on that, Cami?
Well, that falls under the minor category.
And then the potential to harm minors.
What if minors never read it though? Only adults see it.
You can't ever.
Isn't that promoting it though?
Yeah.
Amongst.
And
But
it's
it's promoting it amongst
physical harm.
adults though.
It's truly promoting physical harm to a minor.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
It's promoting.
yeah.
But I also
What
honestly,
about
I
this
take it a
though?
step further.
Because on the other side, the way I could see it still being allowed is then we know who the pedophiles are. I feel
That's
like
true.
that'd be very helpful. It points them
That's a
out.
good
It tells
point.
us who we gotta watch. You know,
You're on
right?
the sex offender list now. No,
And
and
as long
I
as
take
it doesn't lead to an action, they're just saying stuff. It's like saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna go murder this person," but never, you're never really doing it. Like it's just.
I take this a step further though, because I kind of am on the side of you. Like they shouldn't be allowed to talk about that stuff. BDSM and like promoting like chains and whipping and like violent pornography. I feel like why is that a thing?
Just like the same thing with that's what happened with Balenciaga. You saw that, right? Where they were trying to make children's purses and things
and then
be
everyone boycotted
BDSM.
Balenciaga.
Yeah, and that
Ooh.
makes sense. That's something that should not be promoted with minors.
Like, how come there's not a high influx of pornography where the woman is saying yes and please, and the man is respecting them? How come that's not something being promoted? I don't know.
Anyways, I have to go pack. Sorry, I just wanted
Nice.
to say
You're good. Thanks for chiming in.
We're pretty much done.
Love all you.
Everybody loves when Cami makes a surprise appearance. Danielle is having some applesauce before going to bed. That sounds good. I want some applesauce. You are allowed to plan out how to rob a bank. The moment you take any steps towards actually doing your plan, you are guilty of trying to rob the bank. Sometimes
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can fantasize robbing a bank all you want. Just don't do it. Don't do it, you guys. It's not worth it.
Todd says, "What about when Trump said go to the Capitol and then you saw what happened? Was that free speech?"
What? Yeah. Why not? Eskel,
Yeah.
right? Let's see. Okay, this is interesting. Yeah, well, I think I might need more information on that because is he talking about how the Capitol got raided and Trump told the people to go to the Capitol? Like, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's true.
But then see that would be confusing then because if I told people go to the Capitol, nobody would like maybe one person would go, but like it's not illegal for me to tell people to go to the Capitol.
You know the context, and he knew the power in his words too.
But did he tell them to? Because I think it's one thing if he's telling them to go raid the Capitol and go cause harm and hurt people. That's one thing. But if he's just saying go to the Capitol to protest, you're supposed to protest peacefully. So I would debate. I don't know Trump's intentions. Maybe he meant it in a bad way, you know.
And that's the thing is context is it's all because you see YouTubers all the time where they're like, well, before I get into this story, don't send hate, don't harass these people. Like they're literally having to say it at the front because they are aware of how far their word travels and they don't want it to travel in a negative way. And I think that's a healthy way of running a YouTube channel, right? Is to make sure like, hey, don't send hate to these people that we're gonna be talking about. Just trying your best to understand how much your word is of value and how many people you are coming across and to be aware of that. So sometimes I feel like Trump didn't do a very good job of that.
No, I see your point though, because I think it's responsible and very mature of you to understand what you're trying to get across. Like if you have large influence on people, then understanding what that might be able to lead to and like letting them know and like setting up the right context is very important. You need to understand the effect of what you say, for sure.
Yeah. And I think this whole conversation, everything we've covered today, what makes what is the best solution in all of these issues is more self-awareness and more awareness of your environment and the people around you. Being more educated and more empathic of other people's experiences and in tune with your own.
Yep, 100%. I like that. If there's one thing we take away from that, like that's the best. I think that's so great.
Yep, and don't take anyone's free agency.
Yep.
This was a really good conversation. I enjoyed all of your input, Brooke. I resonated so much with everything you were saying. I'm glad you brought up a lot of Flicker Fade too. Angels Among Us, Diana, Todd, Irina, Kevin, everybody. All you guys were great.
Awesome.
This may be your longest video ever. I know. How long have we been out here for?
I don't know.
At
one time.
I still am going to. I'm just gonna have to take 4 shots of espresso.
Okay, I'll let you go so you can get to it. But this was fun. We'll definitely have to plan more. This will be great.
Yeah.
I'll be writing down my questions
on my Patreon, you guys. We'll also be talking about who the next serial killer is for tomorrow on my Patreon. I'm advertising my Patreon on Eskel's channel. Go get on the Patreon.
Great. Sweet. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you all next time.
Yeah,
thanks for joining, Amanda.
Yep, bye.